There we go. Just like magic. Okay. There we go. Just like magic. Okay. Does this have the chat? No, it doesn't. Okay, so this has to go. That goes there. This goes there. That's testing. Yes. Is it working? I hope so. All right. Hang on a sec. Hey, what's up, good people? Thanks for dropping by. I'm going to get the show on the road here in a little bit. I just have a few links to send out. I'm going to be doing this. It's kind of spontaneous, last minute sort of thing. I got to send the link now to Camille, who's running a bit behind. I only got her message late. I came back in and she had messaged me saying she was available tonight. I was like, oh, damn. So, yeah, here we go. We're going to go live. I'm going to do this. So I have to send her the link now. And hopefully she'll be there. Yeah, she said about 20 minutes. So Camille is the food guru when it comes to the Impossible burgers and the plant-based Soylent Green that they're making. It's out of this world what's going on. It is out of this world. It's a horror story. And she is so on the ball with this. I mean, this is really what she spends so much of her free time informing people everywhere, especially in her community about this. She's very active with this. And I've done shows with her before. I mean, she's been on Jeff C. and Friends several times, and of course we've done shows together just on the foods. So I wanted to get up to breast on what is the latest with what's going on with the foods, because I think everyone can see what's happening. Like, it's just the beginning too. I mean, we're stepping into the new world order of foods now, and you see where all your fast foods and all your grocers are now stocking these things. So I just want to check now. Hey everyone, Shades of Pale, Ian McNally, Homie Lit, Malcolm, Naz, Jip, all you people, can you hear me okay? Just want to make sure I'm coming in okay. It looks like I'm coming in okay. It's a little bit of a delay here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know. And make sure you're subbed to the channel if you're not already. It's a little bit of a... YouTube got rid of their Google Hangouts. So if I want to do a show where I actually have... when I want to bring people on, I can still do shows on Google. Yeah, okay, cool. I can still do shows on Google, on YouTube, on my normal channel, if I'm not bringing in guests. I mean, there might be a way to wiggle around it with OBS and all. I'll see what I can do. But for now, this is kind of the quick fix. It's always good to have another backup, though. So, because, censorship. So we've had a lot of crazy things to deal with. Now, I don't know why Google took away their Hangouts and didn't replace it with anything. They've got something coming. So, it's supposed to come out next year or something. Whatever. Hope you're all having a good Friday evening. We had a lovely day here in Montreal. We had, according to the Disney media, we had 500,000 people out protesting for their mind control. Of course, if you saw my video earlier today, you saw that. And Greta was here in Montreal again, and pushing the propaganda. They let all the kids out of school. I mean, what kid doesn't want to get out of school on a beautiful day, especially in autumn? Because school, hey, we're in October, right? Or we're not even in October. We're in September. So school just started up like a month ago. The last place on planet Earth that I would want to be at any point in time pretty much is in a school classroom. So you give me any opportunity, and especially when you're young, say you're 16, 17. I mean, they're high school students, university students. I mentioned in my video that Montreal has the highest per capita for student ratio. So the amount of people in the city, that it has the highest in the world, apparently, or at least in the Western Hemisphere, as far as I know. And so they let them all out of the schools. So every kid got out of the school. Well, where else are you going to go? It's a beautiful day. If you're in downtown Montreal, going to go up on the mountain, get some sun. Here's some people. They had drummers and, they had the whole 9 yards going, bands, and probably giving out, I don't know, rainbow flags and stuff. Who knows? Right. But, the kids all show up and they have no clue what's going on. I mean, how are they supposed to know anything about anything, right? They don't know their ass from their elbow. So, sustainable food labels on food stores all over. Wow, eh? Yeah. Hey, I'm on the south shore of the island of Montreal. Salut, Malcolm. Thank you. Hey, nice to see you. Yeah. I think there are more Montrealers listening to my show these days. I try to, one of the ways I try to reach people is through Twitter, if I can. And I try not to be belligerent. So if you do stumble upon me, I mean, a lot of people have discovered me through Stranger Than Fiction, who's a good friend and doing great work. And he's probably asleep right now. He's on the other side of the world. And KJ Osborne, of course, another great friend. So I got a lot of new subs on the main channel, which is great. And hopefully they'll won't censor me anytime soon. Knock on wood, right? But yeah, it's important to be able to communicate with people locally. So I'll talk to Camille about that as well when she jumps in here, about what she's doing on the scene, right? Because she's very active. She's constantly talking with people in her communities and presenting all kinds of information. And then she's going to speak, her mother as well, going to speak at the town hall and stuff when they have these meetings discussing these things. It's very important. It's not something that I do, but I do this. So I feel like, that kind of, I'm doing my part. But it is important if people can get on a municipal level. I would have liked to have been out there today confronting David Suzuki, I would have confronted David Suzuki about all his properties and homes that he owns, right? And the fact that he's a major hypocrite. And his daughter, of course, was a precursor. A lot of people were pointing that out in the comments about his daughter, David Suzuki's daughter, being used at the United Nations in the early 90s, for the exact same type of propaganda where it was like, she's like saying like, oh, I used to fish, around Vancouver with my father, but I can't anymore because all the fish have cancer. Well, that's total bunk. It's total bull. People are fishing like crazy around Vancouver. I know. I've been to Vancouver many times. Right? It's just, and then of course, I can't go out in the sun because of the ozone. I'm out in the sun all the time. I'm telling you, I never use sunblock ever, because you know what I think? I think that if you're going to get skin cancer, that's probably what's going to give you. I don't think the sun is going to kill you. I think they can tell you that the ozone layer's depleted, or like they did. Just like, they do these things over and over again throughout the decades. And then if you trace where it all emanates from, well, it's all from the banksters, essentially, right? So, the global warming thing is something they whipped up ages ago. The overpopulation thing, been around for ages. 200 years plus. And it's always been the banksters that have been going, we got too many people, got too many people, got too many people, got too many people. They've been singing the same song over and over again. You go back to the 20th century, the early 20th century, I'm talking 1900, around there. Some of the biggest stories that were out at the time was that the planet couldn't support the amount of people that were on it. And there was less than 1 billion people at that point in time. We're now at whatever they tell us, 8 billion, right? And we're doing fine. In fact, we could easily support double the population. I mean, I'm not encouraging that we, continue to overpopulate the planet, although that could be a misnomer as well. But I think a lot of what we're getting is just their agendas, right? And their agendas manifesting. If they can condition us into this mindset that we're destroying the world, if they find a sick polar bear, they have a sick polar bear. Well, there's global warming. Oh, there's a cold spell. Global warming. Well, there's a warm spell there. Global warming. This is what they do. So they have no credibility to stand on. And they're using these actors who are clearly connected. I mean, showing today in the video that Greta Thunberg's, relative, one of her relatives, was the first guy to develop a method of collecting the carbon emissions or calculating the carbon emissions. And we're talking back in the early 20th century, the early 1900s. So they were trying to make this argument way back then. It's out of this world what they're trying to do, right? And I'm not against cleaning up the environment. I mean, I'm very much in favor of keeping things clean and, cutting down emissions and pollution. I don't like pollution. I don't like to go swimming in the lake and, it's all polluted. but be real about what you're doing. This is not what they're doing at all. They're deceiving all of us. So that's important to say. KJ's amazing. Yeah, KJ's awesome. Stranger in Fiction is awesome too. Really Graceful is amazing. True State Media. Jeff woke me up. I will always be grateful. Awesome. Thanks, Chip. I appreciate that. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I'm doing KJ next week, apparently. Hey, I'm going to be back on KJ's show. I'm pretty excited about it. He contacted me. So we have so many different things that we could talk about. That particular podcast was more about the degeneracy of the youth. But maybe we'll talk about the foods. Maybe we'll talk about, a lot of other things that are going on. Agenda 21, of course, which is encompassing depopulation. So many things going on. So it's pretty crazy. It's amazing how the movies and the television and all these things are all pushing the same agendas. I mean, it's not it becomes so obvious when you go to movies or you see the films that come out. I try to watch. It's difficult. I am watching a series right now that's dealing with time loops and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to do a video upcoming on that particular topic. But Saturn and all that, right? But it is difficult for me to watch a lot of these films. I get 5 minutes in and I just turn it off. I put on the Elton John biopic, and within like 2 minutes, I'd turn it off. Within 2 minutes. I mean, he came out in the Elton John pic. He comes out as the Baphomet. I mean, it's the first thing. They open the doors, the light. He comes out from the dark and through the light sort of thing, and he's the Baphomet. And he's going to an AA meeting. And next thing you know, it's like the whole neighborhood is singing and dancing. And it's just like some horrible musical from hell. And it's just like, okay, that's it. It's done. I'm not watching another minute of this. So I have a difficult time. Hey, what's up, Chad Luigi? Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Really compelling listening to you, two curious and intelligent minds discuss things that actually matter. Yeah, thank you very much, Gary. Appreciate that. Man Bear Pig. I love that name. Let's talk about something real, something blatantly obvious, that we have no rights here in Quebec. Yeah, it's true. As you know, it's crazy what's going on. And this is all Agenda 21. Montreal is Agenda 21 Central. It's out of this world. I mean, Montreal might as well be in Sweden. Just take a walk downtown. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's also disturbing at the same time. It's United Nations everywhere, right? Everywhere you see these billboards with refugees, right? It's like, what's going on? Are you trying to send me? Obviously, we have the largest gay village in the Western Hemisphere, which is not a good thing. I'm sorry. I'm nothing against gay people, but shouldn't we all be in the same villages, right? I mean, what, you're going to go to Debauchery Lane to get your quick fix and your drugs and everything else? And of course, if you go to Debauchery Lane, aka the gay village, you're going to see a lot of pretty disturbing things. And some of this I've shown. And this is not just Montreal. Toronto's doing the same thing. I mean, they're doing the same thing in most of the major cities in Canada. But Montreal, right next to the gay village, we have the sustainable gardens. Like, it's just everywhere. So I put a whole video. All over Montreal are the electric bicycles now to go with the Bixie bikes. And then they got the little green scooters, which are just retarded. I mean, you got to be, what's the matter with you if you're going to go around? I mean, like little kids, yeah, okay, a little kid on a scooter. But I mean, you wouldn't catch me dead on one of those things. I mean, it might be useful to bash somebody on the head with, but I like the people that are putting them everywhere. Like, I have the fantasy of just sticking them up in trees, like in climbing up and sticking them way up high in the tree, just to like give them the FUCK sort of thing. So, anyways, hang on a second here. I'm gonna check, make sure. Camille said she'd be here in 20 minutes. So it should be pretty soon. I gave her the link, so she should be able to jump in. The food is getting worse. It sure is, man. It's getting bad. That is for sure. We are being inundated on a daily basis with this rapid transition. Let me see here. Close this. I got to keep an eye on here to make sure. Last time I was doing the show and I didn't realize there was people waiting to get on, and I had to add them. It's like, it's a bizarre little contraption they've got here, a little app, whatever. that they're using. Oh, I can just look at here. Okay, that's cool. This is actually better. So I can close this window here, and I can just focus on where the actual show is happening here. So I don't need to have an extra window open, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah, the foods, we're gonna get into this in a big way. I am always horrified by it. Like, I see it everywhere. Everywhere I go. We talk about the Impossible Burgers because the Impossible Burgers are always in the news, and every day they're impossible. I looked up Impossible. I got this James Arthur Impossible Burger here. I'm gonna talk about that. I mean, Camille's the expert on this stuff, so it's going to be really interesting to get the latest on this. But there's a bunch of stories today. Business Insider's got 2, 3, 4 stories on this today. I cooked an Impossible Burger at home. Here's what I learned. Business Insider. Here's another one 4 hours ago. I'm a beef eater, but after cooking 3 beef recipes with Impossible meat, Costco will say, I want to see, I'm switching. I'm gonna, yeah, okay, here we go. I'll see if I can share my screen here. What do I do? Hang on. Yeah, screen share. That'll work. Screen share. Select the window. What it's like to cook with Impossible. There we go. Allow. All right, there we go. Yeah, check this out. I'm a beef eater. But after cooking 3 beef recipes with Impossible meat, I'm a convert for life. Wonderful. Just 3 meals. In just 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That's it. I'm done. There's 3 stories, at least on in Business Insider here today, just on this. And then you're like, Business Insider, what is that? Well, it's all the same. It's all your Disney media. Let's see if we get some more stories here. Oh yeah, there's a ton of them. Wow. Okay, this is a good place to start. 5 easy steps to Impossible Burger bliss. Los Angeles Times. I cooked 4 Impossible Burgers at home, and I felt bizarrely what? This Business Insider again. And it felt bizarrely familiar. These are the best and worst parts of the experience. You know, to me, there's no point. What's the point? There's no point. If you want to argue that we're eating too much beef, okay, fine. Then maybe we'll increase the price of beef so less people eat it, right? That's one method. Or you just make the choice yourself. I'll eat less beef. But why do you want to eat fake beef? What's the point of that? It's silly. I mean, like, I don't have a problem. Like, one of my ex-girlfriends was a vegetarian. So I had to, when I was with her, I always had to eat veggie meals. I don't have a problem with it. I can go all week without eating meat. I'll eat maybe eggs or something like that. Right? But, I can eat pasta. I can eat, I don't like to eat a lot of carbohydrates, but, I'll eat a lot of fruit and, a lot of, dates and stuff like that, to give good energy and protein. So I don't have a problem cutting back on meat. And I think maybe, in a way, it's not that bad to cut back a little bit. Oh, there she is. I'm going to add you. I just clicked you in. Hey, Camille.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. Ready to roll here. If you
Sorry,
see what I got. I just, was going through. I was surprised here looking. I put in a search for Impossible. I'm not surprised, but I mean, why should we be? And there's so many articles just in the past day here.
Well, they're in grocery stores now, right? Impossible Burgers? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Popping up everywhere. So maybe you can just tell folks a little bit about yourself and tell them your channel. I put the link in the description there so people can go sub you. But just tell folks, take a minute or two just to tell folks what you've been up to and how you've been going about informing people about this.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Camille. Thanks for listening. Um, I mostly have been talking about the synthetic biology crazy takeover of everything, but I have more things to talk about. I've just been so busy, I haven't gotten to add anything in. But yeah, I got to looking at this crazy subject a couple years back here, looking at a company, Perfect Day Foods, that they make milk without cows. And I thought that that was crazy. And then I found they were making breast milk without breasts and all of these things. It's like a nightmare. And I was watching it, and it was just this sort of a slow thing for when I started watching it. And now it's like a freight train. It's crazy how fast it's everywhere. And they are able to sell this stuff as non-GMO, and they're able to say just these little catchphrases and good words that people want to look for, like sustainable and humane, and they're duping even the health food stores. It's crazy to me. I've been fighting my local co-op for years and over this, and I'm just waiting for them to have Impossible Burger on the shelf now. But
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. It goes so far beyond food. People need to
that's
need to
it.
know that.
So yeah, we need to understand that it's not just food that's being changed. I mean, everything's being changed, right?
Yeah, they want to remake the world. They want to remake you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're remaking humans, in other words.
Yeah. And the animals and the plants.
Yeah, that's just nuts too. I mean, if you think about the dangers, I mean, just the Franken foods and the Franken fish, for instance, like the fish farms that they have, that they're growing these genetically modified salmon, for instance, in. If these things get out into the wild, we're talking like massive ecological disasters.
Yeah.
You
They're
know,
playing God. It's got to pop at some point here. They can't, is it the hubris? They think they can control, but I don't think they can. I think something crazy is bound to happen from all this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just full on now, and I like, you cannot not notice it now. It's like it happened so quickly, Camille. Like like I just started noticing it everywhere. Like just over I'd say the past summer.
Yeah.
Where it's like I'm in the grocer and it's like I'm seeing the Impossible Burgers, and I'm seeing, and then all of a sudden, driving around seeing the fast food joints all having these Impossible Burgers.
All of them, yeah, and all the big name producers, Kraft Heinz is coming out with their thing, and they're all everybody's got one. Everybody's got something.
Yeah, and that's where you see it's like something that's been in the works for a long time, and that like they were waiting for. I mean, they're obviously been working hard at producing these things and perfecting them, right? And then it's a matter of the right social conditions to bring these things in. So much of what we're seeing, especially like today or the past week or so, with, let's say, Greta Thunberg in the propaganda, is all part of this, right? It's all because like the mental conditioning of the masses is like we have to drastically change our ways, otherwise we're doomed. I mean, that's what Greta Thunberg is pushing, that humanity's doomed unless we drastically change everything, right? So it fits into the rhetoric that everything needs to change, and and so we all have to buy into this and believe that this is for the betterment of humanity. Where these foods, there's no way that they've had any, just like the genetically modified, right? There's no real long-term studies that are done on the impacts of these foods. And time again, what we've seen, I mean, when it comes to like genetically modified foods, aspartame, things like that, these products, these highly controversial sort of chemicals get approved, they get rubber stamped through the revolving door of like, the corporatocracy, like Monsanto, for instance, and with Europe, the exact same thing where they. I don't know if you knew about this, but I talked about it in a video a couple months ago where it was with aspartame, and it was like that the I can't remember the name of the European food sort of organization that approves these things, but they had basically discarded uh, several dozen studies that showed that aspartame caused tumors and cancer and all these, liver damage. And they basically just, no, we're not going to look at those studies. We're going to pretend they don't exist. Right.
Yeah.
And then they approved it. And it's like, whoa, now there's calls to have it yanked from the shelves. You've already let the genie out of the bottle. And then, it's like, the same with genetically modified foods, where like so many studies that have been done that actually show that genetically modified foods are dangerous have been completely discarded and ignored. And only the studies that are done by Monsanto or corporations like Monsanto that are producing these genetically modified foods are even considered when it comes to approval. So it's the game is rigged with this stuff, and we're all guinea pigs, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's terrifying. It is. It's like, what do you eat anymore? What do you even do? They're
Yeah.
they're
So
not on our side, that's for sure, passing all
no.
this stuff.
Well, that's it. I mean, and okay, so I asked this question before. I would like your answer on it, and everybody that's listening right now. It's what's the point? What is really the point? Like, I know what their point is, but like from an average point of view, like why bother faking a burger? If you're going to be a vegetarian, why not just not eat burgers? Right? why
Well,
why even delude
they say a lot
yourself?
of it is for the meat eaters, like the vegans and the vegetarians. They could eat these things if they want, but from a lot of what I've heard, it's just for us evil meat eaters to get us like fill that gap so that we could come to their side on it.
So you think that
That's
um
just the people
I
that
mean,
might think
obviously,
all
okay,
that.
so the whole vegan movement, and I'm not against vegetarians or vegans at
No,
all.
eat what you
Uh,
want.
yeah,
Just
eat
know
what you
what you're
want.
eating.
Absolutely. that's
That's all I want.
that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? You just know what's in your foods. And I'm someone that everything I buy, if I can, I'm picking up the label and I'm scrutinizing, reading. But even then, it's not enough, right? Like
Yeah.
with what you're saying is we don't that only tells part of the story basically, and it omits a great deal. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, some of what they're doing is the modifying the tiny life, like the yeast and E. coli and algae, and they turn them into whatever kind of living factory they want because they've got the code of damn near everything, and they want to be able to create these things. Well, they have them produce molecules. It's not they say it's molecules, not cells, and so there's no uh, there's no proving where those molecules came from, so they could be anything. So, like, what I don't know how that's going to work on the ingredients list, but yeah, they're enslaving tiny life to make your food, and they don't have to tell you. It's
Yeah.
they don't have to tell you, and like that's just totally reasonable, right? I think it's crazy. I think it's
But it's also, yeah, another thing to note, which I think is important, is the type of labeling that is used, right? It's like it's always green,
yeah, they
right?
set us up
Yeah.
definitely. They
Yeah.
took
So
those
like
words.
where we're being bombarded everywhere we look, especially in the Disney media, New York Times, CNN,
Oh, did you
C-
see Disney's gonna be offering 400 or something plant-based items on their menus?
are you serious?
Yeah, I just saw that the other day.
Okay, let's see if we can find that and bring that up because that would be really interesting to look at here. So I'll just put Disney plant-based, Disney plant-based cuisine. Yeah, it's all coming up here. Disney has announced more than 400 vegan plant-based options will be added to all dining locations in Walt Disney World Disneyland Resort.
And they say producing food this way is gonna be cheaper, so I can't imagine these big places where do they care about the quality of your food in the first place? Like, why not just do it all this way, you know?
Well, I mean, my argument too would, like I said it before, pardon me, before you came on. Like if the problem is, or if you want to sell the problem that we're eating too much beef, right? Let's say there's too many cattle ranches, there's too many cow farts, right? Too many carbon emissions coming, and how much carbon it takes to produce a slab of beef or something like that. Well, then why not just make beef more expensive? Like make it what it actually maybe should be, right? So that maybe you can afford half as much, so people are eating half as much, right? And then when you have the beef, you enjoy it more, you pay more for it, but hopefully get better quality. And then you just make it so that it's not something that it seems so hypocritical. One thing that really freaks me out, and I haven't got around to making a video about it, is the horrible YouTube. Well, it's the website, of course. It's ButtFeed, right? AKA BuzzFeed, and how they are always doing these. Oh, eat everything on the menu, right? Eat everything on the menu, and try. Keith eats everything, and the Try Guys try everything, and we're going to eat everything that's on Burger King, or we're going to go in and order, 98 hamburger patties and make a giant lasagna out of it. They do that for years and years and years, and then they have the gall to put up one video where they're saying, well, we got to stop eating beef. It's like, you got to be kidding me. You're making a career, you're making millions off selling fast food, right? And then all of a sudden you're going to make a video and try to counteract what you're saying. It's ludicrous. But
Yeah.
so here,
Oh, but on what you were saying with the make the meat more expensive, the good meat is already more expensive. The stuff that they're raising it well, I mean, people should look at Eat Wild. I know I talked about it before, but that's at least in the States. That's a website that you can use. I don't know if it works outside here, but Eat Wild, I think .com, maybe .org, but it helps you find farmers that, yeah, you're going to pay more. You're gonna, but it's going to be better, and the animals will have lived a decent life. You can go meet them. You can go
yeah,
and see where it's grown. But
I think that's a way better. In fact, I mean, that's the way we should be going. Of course, this was all destroyed, right? When the turn of the 20th century, half the population of the United States were farmers, essentially. And then, we had a number of events that happened, world wars, we had orchestrated events, we had the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl era, and then all of a sudden now we're in the new era, or we have been in a new era of massive agricultural sort of juggernauts, right? Like these massive corporations that have taken over most of our food production, which is all part of their plan. But the reality is that if we really, what you're saying is exactly what we should be doing. Like what we should be doing is taking a few steps back to move forward, like where it's like, let's give up the convenience and the cheapness, let's go for quality over quantity, let's support local farmers that we know are treating the animals humanely. So it's like going to see where your chicken eggs or your chicken meat is coming from. Well, there's the chickens, they're running free. Well, that's great, they have a life before they get slaughtered, right? And hopefully you're slaughtering them in a very humane way. You're not causing them any undue suffering. Same with the pigs and the cows, right? If you know that your meat is well treated, and you have basic sort of rules applied, then people will appreciate it so much more. And then there won't be that guilt that, oh, we can't eat animals, because it's cruel. And that's, I mean, a lot of vegetarians get programmed into that mentality, and you can't really blame them, because then they see like Cargill and Tyson, and they see these massive corporations, and the videos leak of where your chickens come from, where your pigs come from, and it's horrible, right? I mean, they couldn't be treated worse, basically.
yeah, I saw Now
Right?
This News was talking about McDonald's chickens, I think earlier today. Those guys are
Yeah.
great. Yeah. No, but how they raise
It-
them too, the way
mhm.
they're modified so that they're ready for slaughter and big and breasty
Yeah.
early on in
That
life.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's I mean,
But
and
people need
McDonald's. Go ahead.
mhm.
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, yeah, right now, people need to switch to supporting these local farms because they're still there, but they are going away. I mean, a lot of the raw milk farm in my area is closing in a month, but there's another
Mhm.
farm maybe that's like 3 hours away that might supply our area. We're really
Mhm.
hoping, but it's gotta support them. You have
Do
to,
you think a lot
otherwise
of
we can have.
these farms are being squeezed by these big corporations?
Uh, I don't know about big corporation necessarily, although Walmart did drop like this whole contract, but that milk was I would not consider quality milk. That was the kind of milk you shouldn't drink raw because it's not raised
Mhm.
well. But and so that they dropped a lot of farmers, um but yeah, I don't know. One of the local farms that we had in my area did get legislated out of business. Like the government changed the law, I want to say a year or two ago, that they had to get all this extra equipment and go to do thousands of dollars in testing and training and they had health department coming and checking and they were always good. But the new
Mhm.
laws muscled them out, so they just retired. They were old and the young ones didn't wanna take over and deal with all that. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. That and it is very difficult work. I mean, it's
Yeah, but think about it. You're going to the gym by going to work, you're
yeah,
using
that's
your
true.
body, you're probably
Mhm.
get to go outside a lot. If your animals are living well, you're gonna get to go outside a lot, and what a noble purpose, you know?
Well, that too, and less is more in a way, right? Like, I mean, the convenience that we have. I mean, so much of Agenda 21 it runs. I mean, it all kind of runs completely contradictory to free enterprise capitalism, right? So that's the big I mean, one of the massive transformations that we're witnessing happening right now at a breakneck pace is this transformation because they have to transform like basically with Agenda 21 it's we're going to transform the world from being a consumer based society to being basically a communist you know um, uh, dictatorship, although they don't sell it as a dictatorship, but where we're going to have central authority that's going to control the distribution of food to make sure that everyone gets the same kind of thing. We're going to be given credits, just like we're getting credit scores, and this is all being laid out. So much of what we're going to see over the next 10, well, I mean, forward going as long as these psychos are in control is we're going to see a complete dismantling of the American sort of lifestyle, and you're seeing it happen. I mean, in many ways, what's happening with I mean, they've destroyed the family, right? They've made it almost impossible, or they made it really difficult for people to have families because it's so expensive. Coming out of school, the student loans, they've been pushing the heavy, hardcore feminism, obviously. So much has been dismantling the sort of American lifestyle. And the American lifestyle is kind of the dream that most people, I mean, there's a bit of an illusion to that, but nonetheless, I mean, the average person, if you could be free to pursue what your passion is and make money and have an enterprise and be in business and all that and do well, then you can raise a family, you can live the lifestyle that you so choose. And just like you're saying, like with being a farmer, I mean, one of the things that if I mean every single one of us could benefit from having a measure of independence from their sort of food system. If we all say produced maybe half of our vegetables or a quarter of our vegetables and produce and stuff like that, just to start off, sort of thing, we would already be taking back some of that control. And in some ways, Agenda 21 is pushing people to have their gardens and stuff like that, but albeit in city areas, not sustainable enough to raise families, but maybe enough to put some tomatoes on your plate, in the summertime, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a massive transition that they're doing. And as you say, it's at a molecular, biological sort of level where they're just changing, the very, you know, basic ingredients of organic life, right?
Yeah.
And that we have no idea. I mean, it's Pandora's box. What does that lead to? How is this going to affect our health? How is this going to affect our children, reproduction? And what we see, like, okay, so one of the things that I looked into recently was the Soylent Green beverages. Are you familiar with that?
I haven't looked into them, but I've seen them.
Yeah. Okay. So the Soylent Corporation, which is being sold as a meal supplement or meal replacement, and I think this is something that they've been pushing for many, many decades to you know. Also, I think a lot of the Weight Watcher things is not really about people losing weight, because people don't really lose weight from those, in my opinion. I mean, occasionally people do, but for the most part, it's your mentality that's really going to help you lose weight if you need to lose weight. But most of these, I believe, a lot of things like Weight Watchers are designed to program people into this type of meal replacement, where your meals are, they're either frozen, you stick them in the microwave, or they're in a bottle, or they're in a bar, like an energy bar or something like that.
Good for the
Um,
busy, busy, busy people.
yeah,
They
yeah,
have to
because
stop
you
and
don't have
cook.
time, right? You got to get you got to get on your bus to get to your train to get to your glass tower, sort of thing, right? And you don't have the time, and then you got to go maybe pick up the kids after you've finished your day of work. And so these quick fix things are, and they can work in a pinch. And is again like the Red Bull type drinks, which I think are absolutely toxic, and I would never ever drink that stuff. But I think in many ways they have been conditioning us into fake foods, basically into these supplements, and if you see in the films, like, have you got a chance to see Soylent Green yet?
No, I've been so busy.
Yeah, you got to see that one. But I mean, it's corny as hell, but it's actually set kind of in contemporary, so it's like, it is very important for people. I'm sure a lot of the audience has seen it, but because it's so iconic, right? The famous quote from Charlton Heston: "Silent greatest people." Um, but the whole, I mean, it's written by Small Hats, right? And the whole, it's like the book comes out, it's a New York Times bestseller. Within a year, they're making the movie, kind of thing. That's how it works, right? But the whole notion is that it's around 2020 in New York City, and the population is 47 million. And there's, they don't tell anybody, but they're saying that people don't know this, but the plankton, the food chain of the oceans has collapsed because of global warming, of course.
Mm.
And therefore, people, you don't have access to real food anymore. You only have access to Soylent Green, and it's like energy bars, basically, right? It's like this. It's just, it's a green sort of bar that you bite into. It's your food. And then, of course, there's a police detective who is investigating a murder of a high profile sort of politician, and then he uncovers the plot and realizes that, oh, actually what they're doing is they're taking the elderly, and they're using euthanasia, right? They're convincing them to go gracefully into the good night, sort of thing, sooner than later. Like, don't wait to get old and sick and all that. Let's go now while you're happy and you're still you're still living life, and we'll give you a nice peaceful ride into a nice blissful. So they take the elderly and they put them in these rooms, and they give them this visual sort of, like, there's the walls are all basically television screens, right? And they're given views of spectacular nature and waterfalls, and there's like classical music playing and all that, and they're basically put to sleep. They're killed, and then they're processed for food.
Uh,
So why I bring that up is because, of course, over the past month or so, that's been one of the big sort of things to come out, right? Was that, oh, we should think about cannibalism.
yeah. I've got this strange thing. I don't know what group it came from. It's when I try to delete parts of the link to bring up the main group. It's just this Thrive thing. I don't know what it is, but it's this whole argument about cultured meat, and the end of it, it goes into cannibalism.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's saying that the argument against doing human meat, it would be speciesist to be against culturing. It's really it's several pages on
Wow.
yeah on the
I wonder,
cannibalism.
Jane Goodall was just here in Montreal, ironically.
Mm.
I find that interesting because Jane Goodall infamously sort of, or rather, as you say, famously, showed that chimpanzees are involved in cannibalism.
Oh,
And of course, chimpanzees, as they tell us, share 97.5, or I don't know, it's like that they tell us that chimpanzees have 97% of our DNA, basically, that they're our closest relatives here on Earth.
I wonder what
So,
the percentage is for everything else, because aren't we pretty? I mean, isn't all the life sort of
well, yeah,
mostly?
that's yeah, I don't know. It's not an area that I dig into,
Yeah.
and with evolution and stuff, you're gonna get a lot of different opinions, and so I don't really dig into that too much. But I do find it interesting because I'll just put this in a search just to show this because it kind of does tie together. Jane Goodall, she was just here, and you think about it. Now, she was in Ottawa the other day, so she was just in Montreal. Watch scientist Jane Goodall speak at McGill University. So McGill University is one of the major universities that's involved in this type of new types of foods and medicines and everything else. And here she is speaking in Montreal, and then you got Greta coming in. I mean, you got all these characters coming around. Yeah, I can't help but think that there's some connections to what's going on because Jane Goodall, as I mentioned before, was the one that revealed that chimpanzees were had cannibalistic and cannibalism too in the movies has been amped up over and over in the television shows where it's almost common to put on the television. I wouldn't know. I don't have a television, but I'm saying judging by all the zombie type shows that are basically the prime time for today, right? Um, that it's pretty common that you'd flick on the television and it would be a human being eating another human being.
Yeah, pushing the zombie thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
where we're already zombies, we're just the
yeah.
automatons, like, we're going along, just going with the flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean this is a little bit maybe off topic, but it is interesting that all of this stuff is coming to the surface now. Like they're upping the ante. They're pushing us further and further off the edge, sort of thing. When it comes to, I mean, like this, like to me, cannibalism. The only way you ever consider cannibalism is in a life and death situation,
Yeah.
right? And why would you ever think about it any other way? I mean,
And
we
even
just
then, if we all knew more about nature, there's so much out there that's edible. We just look at it as weeds.
yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, yeah, if you were snowed in or something, and you're stuck in a cave, and there's some dead bodies,
ugh,
that aren't, rotting, and you haven't eaten in a week or two, and okay, well then maybe, but that would probably take like extremes, like for some. But why would you even contemplate it? Why would you even think about it? Because it's so utterly barbaric to even consider something like that. And yet here you've got mainstream. Here you've got Joe Rogan talking about it. Here you've got all these New York Times and everybody else putting out these articles saying, well, cannibalism could save the earth. Could look at this. I mean, Swedish scientists suggest cannibalism to combat climate change, of course, right? Like tying it all together. So in many ways, like I believe what they're doing is they're deconstructing what we think about food. I mean, they're deconstructing us, our children, and everything else, but they're deconstructing the way that we view food.
yeah.
Right, like and this is a quick transition. Like, okay, yeah, it's been going for a while, but we're seeing it amped up. Like, as I said, like just me going around seeing, like, oh, wait a second. So, first I saw it was A&W that had the Impossible Burgers. Then it's Burger Thing. Then it's McDonald's. You
Yeah.
know, Tim Hortons here in Canada, not only do they have the fake meats, but they have the fake eggs.
I was laughing because I saw that what a week or so ago that the Beyond Meat stock drops because Tim Hortons pulled it from part of their Canadian market. But then right after that is McDonald's Beyond Meat. We're gonna sell it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Beyond Meat. So yeah, it just like I look at the narratives and how they're rolled out, and I think that if you have a general sort of pulse on how the corporate media is pushing these things through, and then you see the corporation. I mean, it's all connected, right? There's no accident. It's not like, wow, Burger King is doing something and the other corporations are saying that's terrible. We would never do that to our food. It's not like McDonald's is coming, like, because in the old days that's how it would work, right? In the old days before it was a one world sort of corporatocracy, if you will, competition was cutthroat, and you would do anything to expose your competitors. So if your competitors were going to do something that was controversial, like, oh, look, Burger King now is serving fake beef. We'd never do that. We're McDonald's. We always give you 100% pure beef. They're bullshit. But
Now
you
they're
don't see that.
cooperating.
Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, the tech is licensed from several companies, and they're
Mhm.
all everybody gets to shortcut their way to all of the places selling this. And I mentioned this on that radio show I was on a couple weeks ago. You might have heard
Yep.
that
Yep.
they're excited for the rise of the copycat foods, that the knockoff stuff. Like I saw Trader Joe's has a plant-based burger coming out or out. I don't know. I don't have a Trader Joe's, but that all the little knockoffs that are going to make it more prevalent. And it's just it's crazy because it's not just the meat, it's the medicines and the milk and the cheese. And shoot, do you know they have celebrity cheese? They've got these people, they cultured 5 celebrities, it says, and turn their bacteria into cheese.
What?
Yeah.
Oh
Can
no,
I
that
give
is
you this
just this.
link here? I don't know how
Okay,
this
hang on. Yeah, you
I think
can
I can put it right here. Let's
private
see.
chat. So go to the private chat.
Did
Okay,
that do
here.
it?
Yeah, I got it. Wow, this is
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, and two, it's important. I mean, we talked about this before, of course. They've been using the celebrities to sell these things. Can you see it? Is it coming up on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Selfies.
So yeah, this is just disgusting. It's like too when you think about it. Here, I should turn this off. When you think about it too, it's like I don't know when the trend where celebrities were selling bathwater and stuff like that. Like they've been doing that for quite some time.
Bathwater?
Yeah, it's like they take a bath and then they bottle the water that they were.
Oh god.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a long time.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, yeah. And YouTube celebrities do this all the time, where they sell off their bathwater and they sell off things that they've used. So I don't know what else they sell off, but that's an example, right? Their bathwater, for instance, and they bottle it. So you can imagine they just get the tap running, and
Oh my word.
right? But it also sets the table for this type of stuff. Celebrity cheese selfies. So they're bringing in this selfie sort of thing. Were made with bacteria sourced from famous Brits.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
And
really gross.
Chef Heston Blumenthal, I wonder, was one of 5 celebs who were turned into their own variety of cheese.
And then there
I
were
mean,
those people back, I think it was 2014 or 2015, I just sent you the link, the Bite Labs people that wanted to make the celebrity meat, but they never gave their last names. I tried looking for these people to see where they've ended up now, but I didn't find
oh
them. But
my
yeah,
God.
people didn't seem to like it back then, but maybe they just got the idea out
That
there.
okay, and this all fits into the cannibalism because
Yeah.
even the Pizzagate psyop in a way because Marina Abramovich. I don't know. Are you familiar with her?
Yeah.
So I'll just show this to folks here because we are being played massively. They are like you got to think it's a chess game, right?
Oh, it's yeah,
Um,
huge.
so like they're thinking way ahead. Um, Cannibalism here. The celebrities have been doing. I don't know what Google will bring up here with this, but yeah, here's an example: Katy Perry,
Ugh,
right? Here's another example. We showed this. I showed this way back, I
I
think in
remember. Yeah.
2016 or late 2016, where you have celebrities and they're coming together and they have like it's mock cannibalism, but maybe not. You know, you never know with these people. But they have models that would put their heads here. Like these are actually real people, as far as I know. Like like back when this was happening, they're all wearing lab coats. So I hate the way they do the pictures now because it makes it smaller. But can you make that out? That's Will Ferrell
Yeah.
there. So they're using real human beings, and then they're making like the meals are like cadavers. They're like human bodies, and then all the celebrities are going and taking out pieces out of the cadaver, and then they're bringing it back to their tables to eat it, and then they've got these heads on the table, sort of thing. So this goes back, folks. It's in the music videos, and here's Katy Perry doing the same thing.
Yeah, and if they start culturing the celebrities, then you could be a cultured cannibal, you know?
Yes. So the Rothschild, the infamous Rothschild ball from 1972. Another thing that I covered way back, I think probably back in 2014, when these photos first kind of surfaced. I don't know if it was the first time they surfaced, but they certainly became a phenom on the internet, or at least in the alternative media and the truther sphere, if you will. And so you had all these pictures from the Rothschild ball, which featured the Rothschild family, of course, but also many major league banksters and A-list celebrities like Frank Sinatra and Audrey Hepburn and others. And they were all wearing like really bizarre, mind-controlled MK Ultra type costumes and split personalities, and just it was just utterly bizarre beyond belief. And yes, they were doing this exact same thing where they would have these cadavers. So this cadaver that you see, which is obviously not a real human being, but it's a naked woman there, that was dessert. So you would dig into that sort of thing, and then you see below here, which looks more like it's more normalized. So normalizing cannibalism. I'm going to open up this. This is Renegade Tribune. I'm not sure about this website, but this is from 2017. So they're showing here Katy Perry. So it's almost the same thing, like what you just saw there. Like this is Katy Perry here.
Yeah.
So it's the exact same thing that they're doing again. They got Katy Perry mimicking what they were doing at the Rothschild ball. I don't even know about this because I never listen to any of their music unless I have to do a video. But here she is with a song called Bon Appetit.
Yeah, she's weird.
Well, they all
Yeah.
yeah. They're so this is part of the conditioning, changing the food. Now there's a film. I don't know if you've seen the film. It's called Snowpiercer.
No.
Okay, I'll bring that up for a second here because I think it's pretty interesting. You probably want to see this one. I think you should see these ones because you, out of all people,
I want to.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna say they're fun to watch or anything. This one's rather interesting though. It's by some Korean filmmaker, probably half Korean, half something else. But the food in here is very interesting because they eat these black bars here. So very akin to the Soylent Green itself. They're like these gelatin type bars.
Ugh.
So but this is not what the elites eat. And isn't this interesting? Do they actually have these? Well, of course they do. This is how it works, folks.
It has a bug on it.
Yes,
It's supposed to
because
be-
what they discover in the film is that what they're feeding the peasants and the lower classes is bugs in these gelatinous bars. Now, how much of this do you see where it's eating bugs, right? Eating bugs. Like this is another craze that they're pushing everywhere. New York Times pushing it, National Geographic's pushing it, Slate, BuzzFeed. There's all these restaurants now that are popping up that are serving insects. So they are conditioning. They're first. It's very akin to what I call the Black Mirror sort of effect. Because Black Mirror is not there to wake you up. It's there just to soften the blow of what they're doing. It's there to show you so that you accept it when it comes. The shock is worn off. You've already entertained the idea. This is what predictive programming is. Predictive programming says you've already entertained the idea of something horrible like the Twin Towers being collapsed because we shown it to you thousands of times. Well, maybe you haven't seen it thousands of times, but you've probably seen it dozens of times. And now you're seeing it in real life. Even though it's shocking you, you have been conditioned into accepting it because you've already seen it happen many times before.
And
So
these bug bars, this is what we're gonna get if people just la 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 la, not pay attention and
yeah,
not support where you can get your food right locally. Because once they control it all, holy cow, we're gonna have bug gelatin bars. That's
yep,
weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
This.
Ugh. Ugh, God,
So
seriously. You're supposed to eat
eating
things that eat
bugs.
bugs. You're supposed to eat chickens.
Here's New York
Ugh.
Times. You may not want to eat bugs, but you would eat meat. That this is just recently too. They put a. I've been covering this for years with New York Times. So you might not want to eat bugs, but you would eat meat that ate bugs.
Is that being speciesist again?
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
The
gosh.
exact same rhetoric here, where it's like, well, you're being a hypocrite because you don't want to eat bugs, but you're eating animals and they eat the bugs. So
So they
what's the
wanna
matter
feed
with
you
you?
bugs that are those bugs eating what their natural diet would be, or are they feeding them some feedstock in
That's
there?
it. That's where your incredible work comes in because what are they feeding? What are they feeding these for? Like, what are they feeding the cattle? What are they feeding the insects then?
Yeah.
What are they feeding the insects that are feeding the cattle?
What are they feeding the microbes that are
I
making
mean,
the milk?
I know that I was listening to your show there, which you did really well. I didn't get
Thank
through the
you.
whole thing. I've got like about 20 minutes left to go. But I got through a big portion of it. And I know Clint was speculating all this crazy shit where he's like, it's like some alien species.
Well, there's a lot of background stuff that he's looked at on there. I didn't get to put my theory out there. One of these days I'll put my theory. It's not that, but
Why don't you put it forth? Tell us.
uh,
Or do you want to wait?
well, maybe in a little bit.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so this all ties in because it's a deconstruction of you. Okay, you are what you eat, right? Do you agree with that statement?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
You're
so
remaking yourself all the time. So it's like building blocks, people. You gotta give
yeah,
your body what it needs.
so if they are fundamentally changing the molecular structure of what we're eating, then what are we? What are we going to become
Yeah,
as a result?
totally remade.
Yeah, and so much of this is the celebrities are pushing it like, oh, I ate a bug pizza or something like that, right? And these are popping up everywhere. I'll see here if I can find insect cuisine or insect foods. I don't know what would be foods. See what comes up. I mean, you can get many of the same articles. Edible insects market worth 7.96 billion by 2030.
Uh, yeah.
Wow. Here you've got BioMars Boost Natural Diet with Insect Meal. Fish Farm Magazine.
Now is that the natural diet of fish?
Well, that's it. Well, yeah, in a way.
But I mean
But
that's not what that's not all the fish feed they're doing because they've got
well, what are they
whatever.
feeding the insects then?
Yeah.
Right? And then it gets into that. And then what are the fish? Or it's a fish farmer. Like, I don't think you should, like, I'm against that.
Yeah.
Fish farming's terrible for the environment. It's terrible for the fish. They're not living the natural cycle of life that they should be living. I mean, one of the beautiful things about fishing is, I mean, I absolutely love fishing, right? And because it teaches you so much. Like you go out, you have to use like tremendous. You develop your skill. You have to be there at the right time. You have to be, using the right bait. Is so many things that come together. But then when you catch that fish or you catch those fish and you bring them home, you have a true appreciation for where your food comes from because you had to work for it. You went out and you used skill and you took a whole afternoon, you caught some fish and you brought them home and that's your dinner sort of thing. And then you see, like, I've caught so many fish, like, I'm just always amazed by how strong and amazing fish are. Like, they're just incredible creatures that, this is what they're annihilating. Like, they're reconstructing fish. I mean, the frankenfish, for one, where you have these salmon that are 3 or 4 times the size of an ordinary salmon in these fish farms because they're grown in labs. They're
And they're feeding them synthetic biology. So what's it
yeah.
gonna do to you?
and
You
and they're
know?
making it so that you can't really tell. I mean, because just with the genetically modified, and in many ways, the genetically modified thing is some ways it's the least of our worries now. With I mean, with what you're seeing, where it's all going, right? It's like we don't only have to know about that, but we have to know much more about everything that's going into our foods. But this is just an example where it's like they make it that you can't label, or they prevent labels from being put on these foods so that you have no knowledge whatsoever of what you're actually getting. It reinforces what Camille was saying before, where you have to support local farmers.
And tell your local farmers that this stuff is happening because they may get some animal feed for which they shouldn't be. I mean, they should strive to get away from anything they have to buy like that for their animals. But
One
yeah,
thing I've noticed too, because they have a picture of a dog here, is like, I don't know if you notice this, but dogs are getting cancer like crazy. It's like every dog I know dies of cancer these days.
that's
And it's like they
terrible.
used to just get old and die, or they'd have a liver failure or something. They would live so long. Like you'd have an old Irish setter, an old German shepherd, 15 years old, and eventually they die in a cardiac arrest or something, right? But they lived a long, healthy life. Now they're dying, and they're like 8, 9. They're getting cancers, and it's like, well, what's in their foods?
I was just gonna say maybe they'll end up playing that and saying, "Well, you have been feeding them meat." So, because I've seen plant-based pet foods that are coming, and then the stem cell meat, like this would be healthier for your
Mhm.
pets, so they won't get sick. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a mess. They don't care what they're feeding them either, us or them. I
No,
don't know.
I think that, and that also because they're trying to condition people not to have families and have dogs instead of cats instead of babies and stuff like
Although
that.
one interesting things, I talk to a lot of young people, and the some of the ones that I've spoken to, they want children. Like because I mention it when I see them with their cell phones in their pockets. I'm like, hey, you got to understand what that could be doing to you, and don't you want to have children someday? And that's the overwhelming response I get is that they do. But are they going to be sterilized by the time they get to that age? And then it's like Gattaca or something.
Yeah.
Gotta get them brewed up and be
Well, the
chosen
the um
to.
the clothing too, because what they've done for like women, like they want men to carry their smartphones in their jean pockets next to their testicles,
Yeah.
and the women they want them to carry it near their breasts,
Yeah,
right? So
and I see young girls tucking it in their waistbands, tucking
yeah,
their phones.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, whoa, whoa, wait a second. There's a ton of radiation coming out of that.
Yeah,
you
they
know,
say that the mutations with a thermal effect and who knows other things beyond the radiation, but
exactly, exactly. And then again, what's in our foods that could be in our systems that could be interacting with, like, say, with 5G, for instance, right?
can
Like
I
what?
go really, really crazy notion well, not
Yes,
really crazy, but
absolutely.
this I so I see all the food, well, air quotes there, right? The stuff that they're feeding us,
Mhm.
and they can make it contain anything. Another name for all this is nutraceuticals. They can make it contain anything, including medicines. Again, like that's what they call them. But whatever kind of cocktail they want to make these things. So one thing that sort of a side note on it is that I was looking at, you know, how they had the plant-based vaccines they had talked about years ago, like bananas and lettuce and stuff like that. Jules
Hmm.
talked about it a lot. Well, now I see they've got the Holy Grail, and it's not a it's not a new thing. These virus-like proteins, they're
Hmm.
making synthetic shells of like what the shell of a sickness, like a polio or whatever would be. They make a brewed up version of what that looks like, and that can contain all sorts of other things. But I that's like a side note on this. I see the possibility, since these biobots, the nanobots, are very likely just biology, manipulated biology, that, you know, the neural dust, the smart dust, the kind they
Yep.
want to get in us is the neural dust. It's like so many of these little biology things, these little bacteria and whatnot, they say they can work as a swarm, and that they can team up and work together. So what if people are eating these things and getting like a concentration of these little creatures inside of them, that then with 5G or whatever, like a
Yes.
frequency
Yes.
hits, and who
Yes.
nobody's got to get chipped. You don't have to get chipped. You're
Yes.
you're eating it right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly what I think. That's exactly why I'm so concerned about 5G. Like
Yeah,
you,
because I know Mumby talks about how, oh, Africa's waking up. You know, people are waking up, and you see it in the comments all the time. You're showing us like that people are wise to the crazy of the world. Well, then it's just flip a switch, and meh, we're drooling idiots that will do whatever.
well, I mean, the whole woke concept has been
Yeah.
hijacked by them anyways. It's like now being
Doesn't
woke
Greta
is
even tell people to wake up?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You go woke, woke, and get red pilled or black pilled or whatever, right? And it's
Hmm.
just well, it's just another New World Order pill. I don't know if you caught this story because it kind of it freaked me out. I haven't done a video on it yet, but did you hear about the pyramid tea bags?
Like nanoplastics and things.
Yeah, billions of particles of nanoplastics in these pyramid teas.
Yeah.
So this is bad news for folks out there. Like I drink herbal tea, but I don't drink the pyramid ones. I'll just
Yeah.
put this in here to show you, but it's just an example. It's not exactly the exact same thing that you're talking about, but it gives you an example here. Pyramid teas here. And I'll see if I can find the store. Why aren't they giving me news here? Oh yeah, here. Some tea bags may shed billions of microplastics per cup. So this is an example, folks, of whoa, what is in our products? I mean, the fact that it's a pyramid to begin
Yeah.
with is creepy
Seriously.
enough, right? I mean, it's like yeah,
Yeah.
like somehow the old tea bag wasn't good enough, or now it's like, well, okay, go back to the just using the tea dispenser, the reusable one, because forget about using these things. But I mean, this is just crazy because they're selling these things for a good decade, sort of thing. And then now, whoa, we'll look at all these tiny micro nanoparticles that are in this, and how awful could this be for your health?
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of articles warning about like commercializing the nanotech and what that could do when it's like the nano, the paints and stuff that they make the blackest black paint with
Hmm.
these nanoparticles. And well, what if that gets in you and on you? I mean, that they don't know what it would do to
Well,
you.
they always show the black goo, which you
Yeah,
see everywhere, which is like, whoa, what is that?
like
Right?
consume everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's like where you're saying with the nanoparticles in these food products that we might be completely oblivious to. I mean, they might be throwing us a bunch of red herrings, and then we're going down all these rabbit holes, and then it's like, ha ha ha, you
Oh
guys
yeah.
don't even know it.
There
You're focused on this and that and everything else, and we put these nanoparticles into your products, and now they're in your system and they're there for good. And guess what? Once we fire up the 5G, well, hasta la vista, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
Jules and I were talking about this the other day, and she said that Ray Kurzweil had said that this was already happening. Like they were getting they were getting these things into us. Like we wouldn't even know.
Wow. That's what honestly, I walk around thinking about this all the time. I'm walking around thinking, have I got nanoparticles already in me? You
Yeah.
know, are we like ticking time bombs? Are have they already got to us? And then I like to like because I keep an eye on the celebrities too because I think that the celebrities don't really eat and drink, and well, maybe some of them do because a lot of them are probably just useful idiots and know little about what they're partaking in. But the bigger league ones, you know, the Angela Jolies and Brad Pitts, the ones that are high up, George Clooney, the ones that show up at the CFR and are, you know, United Nations ambassadors and stuff like that, they would probably have they would probably know, don't ever eat this, don't ever eat, stay away from this, don't drink Red Bull, don't drink, you know, stay away from these things. Because you know, like what are they putting in them? And this really scares me because it's like that makes a lot of sense to me. Like I think they code it in a lot of films and movies that these microparticles. I remember there was an X-Men film. Okay, you probably never seen these X-Men movies,
I
have you?
think I saw the first one.
There was okay, maybe it was that one. No, it was. I believe it's the second one. Folks, maybe in the chat might know this, but I think it was X2, where it was Magneto and he was put in prison. So Magneto, what his skill is, he can manipulate metal, right? He has magnetic power, so he's extremely powerful. So they put him in this glass sort of prison, and it's like suspended in air, and there's no metal, and there's metal detectors everywhere for guards to get in, and the way that he gets out from this prison is that they put one of his mutants goes and has drinks with one of the guards, gets him wasted, and puts these nanoparticles into his drink, and then when he goes to work the next day, you know, Magneto immediately detects, oh, you seem like you're a bit under the weather today. I think you've got some, you know, some you know, chemicals in your system or something. And then next thing you know, he's ripping out the microparticles out of this guy and he's using them to escape from the prison, sort of thing. And he kills everybody basically. But that scene kind of stayed in my mind because it you know, they show us these things, right? And this could be something where they're showing us down the road where it's like these microparticles that might be these nano particles that could be in all our systems by this time. It might be impossible to avoid it because it might be that the food manufacturers themselves, the base ingredients that they're using, like things like soy and stuff like that, might have these particles already in them. I mean, the way that the whole global sort of food system works, right, is like it is a full global thing, right? If you're making like crackers or something, right, you're probably importing, you know, different ingredients from around the world to process these things in a big plant. So a lot of the food manufacturers themselves might not even be aware of what's going directly in. This is where it comes down to the molecular sort of components of what's in these foods that is so terrifying. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
It's horrible. It is. I mean, so if we're already filled with this stuff, then I mean, the only choice is just stop eating all this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
you can.
hard. I mean, nobody should be playing along with the medical system either, because they're definitely pumping you full of it there, and the food, and what else are people participating in? The drinking your city's water, like all the different ways that they're able to fill us up. It's
Yeah,
gotta
and
full stop.
ultimately, like I mean, for it's the same old solution, right? Where it's like get off their grid, right?
Yeah.
As much as possible, get off their grid, get away from their dependence. I mean, this is how they condition us all. They're normalizing, like one of the things I try to illustrate all the time, normalizing illness. All these illnesses, like kids have a low attention span. Well, you've got ADD or something like that, right? Like you got to be on pills, you got to be on this, you got to be on that. And instead of just no, this kid just has a short attention span and probably shouldn't be in this classroom, sort of thing.
And they gotta cut down on the dye. Their food is making them crazy too.
Yeah, that too. I mean, it's like the average kid is drinking or getting up in the morning, having a bowl of sugar.
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, like, and it's just fake food to begin with, right? And it's full of sugars and synthetic chemicals and genetically modified goop.
And then they
and
stick them in school.
yeah, they stick them in school, so they're full of sugar and they're falling asleep. I know,
And then
I've
the
been there.
teachers bribe them with candy. They
Yeah,
give, like, prizes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's like again and again, you're damning yourself before you even have a chance, sort of thing. And this is perfect. This is all being normalized in the way this nanny sort of state culture that they're programming the SJWs with. Just like today, where you had in Montreal, they claim 500,000 people protesting. Right? These people have no clue. They have no clue about anything. They don't have science degrees. They have no idea what the science actually says. They're not actually. They're just going with what the telly told them, sort of thing. Right? So they're going out, but it's so easy to manipulate people and normalize all these things so that you become dependent upon the state. And then, you're demanding that the state does more, that protects you more, that provides more for you. And that's exactly what they want. The exact world that they want is a world where everyone is dependent on the state at all times. And that you always cry to the state. They want to control all food production. Um, they want to control you. They want to normalize depression, normalize all these things, and normalize the antidotes, which aren't really antidotes anyways, because they don't really solve the problem. They're just there to prolong it and keep it there for life. And then you've got that identity. It's even with obesity. It's like, oh no, you're not obese. You're fine. You're wonderful. I mean, they're going around selling this, especially to women, right? Where it's like, no, no, that's fat shaming. That's terrible. It's
Well,
like,
did you change
no.
what we called the sizes?
Yeah, I know they changed this, like the instead of like XXXX, where they would have five X's before an L, right?
Yeah.
They actually had this at a point, which I'm sure they had a lot of fun coming up with. But imagine, I mean, it's bad enough if you're on extra large. I know there's some people that are just big bone of big people. I understand that, but I mean, if you're getting XXX sort of large shirts, you're in bad shape. You probably don't need me to tell you that, but maybe you do. Maybe you're so bought into Tess Holiday and all the programming that you think, well, I'm perfectly normal, and this is a perfect normal way for a human being to be. But yeah, I mean, the this is just incredible what's going on. It's astonishing. Like, I'm scared. I am scared. It's like a horror. We're living in a horror movie. In the past, it was a little bit more simple. I think that the like what we're seeing. I mean, it's like it's one thing where we've gone into the genetically modified, where we've gone into now the nano and the plant based sort of, and that's a misnomer too. The plant based, right? It's
Based
all
on
processed.
plants.
Yeah, yeah, like that's that plant based, right? Like that's just to sell it. Well, it's from a plant. It's good for you. It's good
Yeah,
for the environment, right? And so it's selling all of that, but like it's scary because we're so out of touch with what's in our foods. And
definitely. But talking to people is such a cool thing. I got a message from my sister earlier today that she was talking to a friend just about Burger King. And I know I've told you before, my sister doesn't eat like I eat, but they were talking about Burger King. Oh, her friend brought up the Impossible Burger. And then she goes, "Oh, you know what? You got to go to my sister's YouTube." And her friend spent the day watching my video, so I guess, and I think she listened to our shows. And she told my sister, she's like, "I'm so freaked out." And she's like, "I've been mind controlled." She was able to see it. And this is a totally normal person that came from a Burger King conversation. So if everybody, not to say send them over to me, but like tell people. And
yeah,
I mean, I don't
I
know.
mentioned that before you came on. I was saying that Camille's going around and she's, I said on a community level and talking to people, approaching people.
Yeah.
And that is the best way. I mean, ultimately, not everybody maybe can do that. Not everybody's in a setting where that is, or in an area maybe where that's acceptable.
Oh,
You're
it's not acceptable where I am. I've alienated myself from most of my co-op, I think. They don't like me because I tell people what this is that they're
Yeah, well,
selling.
because you talk to you and it's like, this sucks.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I didn't want to know this stuff. No, I'm not saying for me. For me, I think it's great because I want to know all this stuff.
want to
I
know,
want,
yeah.
yeah, because I mean, come on. I
And I
mean,
think that people, at least most of the people that I've talked to, they seem interested. They get freaked out, definitely. But there's so much to freak people out, and that we have to do that because otherwise they're just going to numbly go along. Like we got to shock them, talk about sex ed curriculum or talk about the food, something to shake people.
Yeah.
But it's
But
important.
but I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's you shake the paradigm, right? That's the whole thing. Because it's not like you're talking about sports or you're talking about a television show, right? You're
Yeah.
you're debating your manufactured bread and circus politics, right? Where it's just this is what people expect. You are challenging the paradigm that they're in. Like, don't tell me that my foods aren't what I think they are because I don't want to think about that stuff. I got to work and, and I got 2 kids and whatever, and I'm exhausted. And the last thing I need to know is that these McBurgers are terrible for me and have all these chemicals and nanoparticles and whatever else in them. And these plant-based burgers aren't really plant-based, and they're just genetic lab, freak shows that could be causing tremendous harm. And what on that though, like, because there are a lot of articles that are coming out saying, and I think this is just the contained sort of gatekeeping of the Disney media, where there's articles coming out being critical of these plant-based burgers, saying, well, wait a second, maybe these things aren't so good.
Yeah,
You know,
there was a book that they talked about on, it was either This Week in Google or This Week in Tech. I don't remember the name of the book, and it might even have been fictional, but they were talking about how it was to, when you want to distract from one thing, you
yeah.
flood the news with the other, all these other topics. Yeah, because I see a lot of criticism of these foods, and that, but they're always leaving out that biotech part, and so I just figured that that's just more of the smoke screen that
Well,
they're
that's it,
not
eh?
really.
Because it's so easy to get angry about something. Like, I know that there's major gatekeepers, and there have been for years with the genetically modified and the Monsanto March for Monsantos and stuff like that. Like that is a contained sort of movement that is there. Like there are a lot of genuine people obviously involved in it, but there's a containment to it that it's like, okay, just keep focused on this one thing. Don't pay attention to what the other hand's doing. Like the sleight of hand of the New World Order is what we're facing. So
Yeah, and with this, how they're talking about, oh, these are so processed. Oh, they're
yeah.
not healthy. They're not healthy. Well, then that's an easy thing for people to push aside. They're already getting like a Taco Bell burrito. Oh gosh, processed, whatever. It contains that ingredient, whatever. But that to not even, like, this is a whole new thing that they're doing now, and they want to change everything over to it, and they'll hope everybody just goes along with it. And then they can bring out, I mean, some people that are fully hooked on their video games and their TV shows, they're going to love it. Like, they're talking about bringing back or bringing out extinct animal meats and stuff. Like,
What?
yeah, well, George Church had been working on the bringing back the woolly mammoths for climate change to stomp
Mm.
the tundra to keep everything cold. But now they're like, we can have woolly mammoth meat. They could serve these things that it wouldn't necessarily be that, but or they could serve you dinosaur, anything that they want to. But
Yeah, they are, because they're going to do all that. I mean, if they're not already doing it, they're
yeah,
going to do it, because China's doing it. You know that.
yeah,
Other governments around the world and these corporations, these multinational corporations, people got to understand. I mean, something like, okay, give you an example, like Disney. They have headquarters or they have locations in like hundreds of countries, like literally. So they don't operate, they don't have to, like, I mean, yes, you have the New World Order that's being formed and this United Nations and this one world sort of thing, but still most countries have certain, like, even the European Union, for instance, when it comes to foods and stuff like that, there's certain things that you're not allowed to do, and you have to follow certain guidelines and whatever else. These corporations can easily bypass this. I mean, years back people were speculating on the Google barges, for instance. Like, why does Google have these barges that are a couple hundred kilometers off the coast and stuff like that? Well, it's because it's out of any sort of national sort of jurisdiction that they can carry out whatever experiments that they're carrying out. Right? Who knows? So
yeah,
whatever they might be creating, the human animal hybrids are already being created. This is something that has already been leaked in the media many times. So yeah, we're facing a radical sort of shift in the future, and looking at the meats alone, looking at the foods that they are coming up with, gives us an indication of how far they're willing to go, which they're willing to go all the way, kind of thing, like wherever their demonic sort of science can take them. They'll leave no path uncharted, sort of thing. They'll explore every avenue, likely, because they are beyond any sort of jurisdiction. And basically, the people running this world are psychopaths. They have a psychopath sort of mentality, so they don't really care. Obviously, they don't care about us. I mean, think about the babies, for instance. The For me, it's like, it's one thing when you're older and you didn't have all these synthetic foods that you're growing up with. I mean, you had other things to deal with, but it's the kids now where their cells are forming, right? And especially babies. You look at babies, it's like, whoa. I mean, like, you got to know what you're putting in that baby, like, because every single day those cells are being developed, and they're growing into their body. Whatever you are giving them could radically change them. This is where maybe we can reach people. I think I've always thought that when it comes to the New World Order, that foods was the one thing that would be the best way to reach people, like that, because people are concerned about what they eat. People do care because they can see the results of it. I mean, the cancer rates are going through the roof, folks. I mean, it's just like all of a sudden everyone's dying of cancer these days, right? It's not natural. It's obvious that the foods that we're eating and the beverages and all these things are having a severe impact on humanity. And we're just at the tip of the iceberg here when it comes to where it's all going, because it's getting worse, not getting better. The foods are becoming more unnatural. And
Yeah.
if we really have evolved for millions of years on a basic sort of diet, you can't just go and change that in a decade or two and expect not to have major repercussions on the health of the people. I mean, this is the lab rats thing. Like we said, we're guinea pigs, and they're not telling us anything. They're just selling it to us. These impossible burgers are sold. The celebrities are taking the selfies, saying, and as if they're eating them. Maybe they are, and if they're useful idiots. But I mean, they're pushing these things without any real proper long-term studies being done on the effects that they could have on people. And we're at the point now where it's like they have free reign, basically, to do whatever they want. It seems like nothing's stopping them from exploring whatever concoctions they dream of, sort of thing. And they've been doing this. They've been doing it for decades, right? This stuff isn't like it just didn't pop up the last 10, 15 years. It's going back to like the 60s and the 70s, where they were I've seen videos, for instance. I don't know if you've seen this, but the CBC, I saw videos in black and white from the 1970s where they were experimenting with synthetic meats.
Yum.
Yeah, so it's like this has been going on for a long time. I mentioned the film there before, The Omen, or there's the Omen trilogy, but the first Omen film, actually the second one, kind of centers around a Monsanto type corporation. So the rise of the Antichrist the Antichrist himself is in charge of the world's most powerful, the world's largest food provider, and it mirrors Monsanto in so many ways, where they're genetically modifying the foods and they're killing the farmers in India. And that's in the 1970s. I think that film came out in like 1978 or something like that.
I watched a clip about the Monsanto scene in that, but I didn't know it was the Antichrist was running the company. I've never seen
Yes,
the movie. Oh
it's called
gosh.
Thorn Enterprises.
Oh.
And they're talking about that they're going to take control, they're going to own all the farmland. So this is exactly what Monsanto has done. Hundreds of thousands of Indian farmers have committed suicide because of Monsanto seeds blowing in the wind, coming into their crops, and then Monsanto showing up. So it mirrors so much of what they're doing. In the third Omen film, they're actually, there's a scene where and it's the president. I mean, it's basically the president, and the Antichrist is trying to become the next president of the United States. So he's right there. He's like the ambassador to Great Britain. And in one of the scenes in the beginning, so this is a movie from, I think, 1980, and they're drinking wine, and they said, I can't believe this wine is actually made from soy.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's
There,
not new, is what I'm
no.
trying to say. Is that like these plans have been around for a long time, so we're maybe like becoming cognizant of much of what they're doing at this point in time, but not even really, because we're only seeing what they've allowed us to see at this point in time.
Yeah. All right, I'll go a little of my theory. Because okay, so the
Hmm.
government, our at least the U.S. government has supported the development of some of these plant-based products. I think it was the USDA for Beyond Meat.
Hmm.
I'd have to look it up, but so they've definitely supported. But like I've talked about before, this cultural and breeding alliance that no doubt the government. I mean they're there for a reason, or they're people that just really power hungry. They wanna join the club, those people. But, I mean, they've got damage. From what I understand, they have damage in their line, and why not screw us all up to modify us maybe so they have the better guinea pigs, better stock to use to try to repair their own needs, and they don't care about us. I mean, if you figure like they're our adversaries, right? They're against all of humanity, and if they are suffering, remember Jewish Eugenics, that book, which I
Yeah.
still say you got to read.
Mm.
It's such a it gave. I mean, it's not even a. It's not an anti sort of book. It gave me such a and I don't support anything that they're doing, but it gave me such a like an empathy for them to learn about these different things that ail their children and them later on in years that they don't even know. So if they're working toward a goal to fix themselves, so it makes complete sense that they would need to nail how to modify biology and how to brew up the pieces and parts that they want, especially if they want to like reprint the best version of them that they
Mhm.
that they want to have. But they don't they don't need to care about us.
CRISPR
Like
babies.
yeah, like the CRISPR babies and there's this, like, digital to biological converters. If they jettison themselves off into space to go and, like, the code of them to go somewhere else, they could reprint the perfect version of them. That's kind of a fantastical thing, but
No, that actually does make sense because that is actually something they show in the films a lot.
yeah, so but they need to fix themselves, and I'm not excusing what they're doing, but I'm trying to look at it like if their children are going to be just plagued by horrible things until they die, like wouldn't people do anything for their family if it was your
Yeah,
family,
yeah, yeah.
so I don't know. I do sort of think we need to put the pitchforks down. I think that if we could maybe get people to understand that they're changing everything and they're changing you, but now they're doing it for their reasons. And I'm not, but because they always shut you down, like your hate speech and you're being
Well, yeah,
whatever. But
you're thinking.
yeah, you're thinking, don't do that.
Don't do
Don't
that.
do
We'll
that.
think for you.
Yeah. Just eat,
But
eat your goop. Eat your goop.
although I haven't read the Jewish Eugenics, I have seen a number of these speeches that Steven Pinker.
I haven't heard anything from him. You mentioned him
Mm.
before. I don't know. I know
'Cause-
I think he's even mentioned in that book. Maybe one
Yeah,
of the quotes or something is
he's a
him.
prominent Montreal um, Jew who he often talks about. First of all, he's a New York Times bestseller, and he's written all the. I always get his books for Christmas.
Remember, we talked. This is kindling for when the apocalypse.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, but he gives speeches where he's talking about how the Ashkenazis got the high IQ scores, and they're average 20 points higher or more than the average. Well, I mean, that's to me
On
that's
their
all.
scale for
Yeah,
their
on their
sort of
scale,
intelligence,
and
like what they're
but
what
they,
they
I mean,
say is.
yeah, I mean, like they bring up their kids completely differently, and they the schooling that they get and everything is it's just a different realm, the way that they approach the world. They don't teach us what they teach their kids at all. That would be against their code, sort of thing, or their religion. So but he's talking about how the inbreeding of these people has led to all these disorders, right? These bloodlines that, and this ties into exactly what you're saying, where they've got some serious problems
And
to
these are
go
the
with it.
rare diseases that all of these CRISPR groups, like they want to fix these rare diseases.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that could work,
Focus.
and it's another way of selling it too, because it's like, oh no, we're doing this for altruistic reasons. We want to
Yep.
save people, right?
Yep.
So, but again, we're the guinea pigs.
We are. Yep.
And are, are they eating these foods? Are they, the ones that they're producing? Or are they just testing it all on us? Just like, and that's where I speculate with the dogs and the cats and stuff getting all the cancers and dying much more, like where dogs are always dying of cancer now, and it's like it's normal. And it's like, well, maybe they've been testing the dogs with the food. Maybe the dog food is something that should be really examined over the past few decades to see what they might have tried there first, and maybe now are trying with our foods.
Yeah.
Because I just, and again, it's just pure speculation. I don't have a lab or anything.
No, if you said you knew for sure, then I
Yeah,
would
yeah, I
wonder
know.
about
But
you,
I mean,
because how can we know?
yeah, but you can kind of put some of these things together and
Yep.
see that there are patterns that are not, they're undeniable in many ways. And what we can just say without any doubt is that they are transitioning our food. They are changing our foods, and it's not. And again, this all ties into everything around you. All this with Greta Thunberg and everything that's going on with the global warming all ties into this, because if you have to create that mindset. You have to get the average sheeple to believe that, oh my gosh, we got to cut back. Oh my gosh, we got to change, so that they automatically look, when they see plant-based, they think, wow, cleaner, more efficient, more friendly to the environment. And then they're purchasing these, fake foods that they're creating, these lab grown foods that are highly suspect. I mean, they're beyond suspect. We have no idea what these things. I would never eat them consciously. I mean, that's what scares me. Did you know about this, by the way? Where Burger Thing had this mystery burger. Did you hear about that?
A mystery burger?
Yeah, where it's like you order the mystery burger meal and you don't know if you get the meat
Oh,
or
the Sweden thing, the 50/50
Mhm.
menu? Yeah, that thing. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah, but you did have to choose. You had to
Yes.
choose to order from that menu, but yeah.
That's
Yeah,
just, Burger King did the same thing here, where they were
they
doing,
did it
and
here?
yes, absolutely. And
Oh,
this is what's going on. So it's like they're I mean, it's so crazy. It's like, why this is where I come in and say, like, well, I know why, maybe but the average person doesn't stop to think. It's like, well, they're conditioned, they're reading the New York Times, or they're, the Post media, or whatever it is, the equivalent, right? They're Disney media, and they're being inundated. They're watching the movies, they're watching the television shows, they're seeing the commercials, they're seeing the celebrities, and they're thinking this is all for the good of humanity, where it's like, well, actually, no. You got to stop and think, wait a second, is this good for you? This is all you should be thinking about. Is this good for you? Is this good for your children? First and foremost, is it good for you? What is this? How do you know? And where are you basing your knowledge on? And then why are we trying to fool people? Because that ultimately is what it is. Because when I say, like I said before, like, if you're a vegetarian, then why have burgers? Like, why not just eat, pasta or something else? Like, why, try to, like, why not just give up that type of food? Like, why have a fake steak, for instance? If you're a vegetarian, what's the point? Right? I mean, shouldn't you just, like, I don't like meats. I mean, I know that there are a lot of vegetarians and vegans that probably do like meats, but have made the choice because they don't want to hurt animals. I mean, and I understand that fully. I mean, I used to cover this. I mean, people may not know this because I've been covering this stuff for years, but way back in the days of Free Radio Revolution, I used to cover the Tyson farms and the Cargill and all these massive chicken and pig farms and the conditions inside, and the secret cameras that are brought in, and how the animals are all cloistered together in the thousands in some cases. And it's horrible. And it's like, yes, everybody should know that, for sure. For sure. And in fact, that should never be allowed. That should not be allowed. That should be against, I mean, it should be against the law, right? That you have that. It should be that this is what we should be doing. I mean, what we should be saying to our governments, and I'm always in favor of less government, but when it comes to meat production, should be saying that there has to be a basic sort of decency for all these animals, and it has to be strictly enforced. And if that means the meat's going to cost twice as much, so be it. We'll just
Well,
eat less.
and since we can only do for us, if you're making a good choice yourself, if you're going and finding a good farmer, and then telling your friends, "Oh, look where I get my steak from." That's they don't even and the good farmers don't necessarily need to be told to be good farmers. Some of these people just realize that that's the way that you're supposed to do things,
Yeah,
that
it is the
and
way you're supposed to do things. I mean
so we can
and I
just
like what you said about that, where it's like we don't need to go to the gym. Like,
yeah,
why are people going to the gym? Why not just work?
yeah,
They one of the things about longevity too that people should know is that in the longevity studies that they've done, the people that live the longest are the people that work hard, and they don't retire. Like
yeah,
they're showing like people in Japan and people in Italy and people in places that live to 100 generally are people that work until they die basically.
yeah,
And it's like what keeps them alive is that they're using their body and they're outside all day long, right? They're growing grapes, or they're tending to flocks of sheep or whatever they're doing. They're out there, and and that's the way that humans should be living. That's the way that we lived for thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of years. And then all of a sudden now we got drive through. It's like something's not right. Drive through now with quote unquote plant based impossible burgers, and it's like, well, maybe we're living impossible lives. Like,
yeah,
like that is what we should be doing. We should be turning our back on all these major corporations, all the major food providers, the aforementioned Tysons and Cargiles and the like. We should be supporting our local farmers and doing our best to emulate that type of behavior where we're working to produce our own foods, or at least supporting local farmers who do that. And less is more, right? Okay, you got less meat. Okay, you don't have the tasty burgers and the crispy fries and the soda, but you're gonna live longer. You're gonna be healthier. You're gonna eat something that's real, that your body is going to like, and it's going to process properly. So much of this synthetic food, your body, your liver, your organs can't process it. It's like high fructose or corn sugar, right? For instance, your liver can't process it. And it's like this is one of the big tricks with the whole sugar. I mean, so much of the cancers are coming directly from the sugars. This is something I'm going to cover again really soon, because I've wanted to do this for a while. So maybe Camille, I don't know if you follow about the sugar industry and how devious and toxic they are, and how they have specifically purposely increased the levels of sugar in all our foods to the nth degree, basically. They've addicted us to sweets. Like everything is so ultra sweet these days. Just like the synthetic sweeteners that they use, that they say, oh, they're 10, 17 times sweeter, like xylitol or aspartame and stuff like that.
yeah.
We have... Sorry, go ahead.
I did the one sweetener video, and yeah, it does just seem like they made the problem. They
Mm-hmm.
did it just again, and now they're redoing the way sweeteners are, whether it's just the coating the silica granules with it to make it go further, or making completely synthetic fruit sugars that they're able to sell as something that sounds so healthy to
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
And like the image, right? The presentation. How does it look? Oh, it sells. Just like we said with the plant based, right? People see that and they see like they're so evil the way they do it. It's like plant based burgers, and they've got like green writing, and they've got like a plant shape going around the packaging. It's like, I'm gonna save the... I support Greta Thunberg. And you're fooled, you're conned into thinking that somehow by purchasing and digesting or consuming this type of fake food is somehow going to benefit you and the environment at the same time, which is just nonsense, right? And it's like, look, I mean, you really want, if you really care about the environment, if you really care, then support local farmers. I mean, that would be the ultimate solution.
Yeah, if you really care about the environment, then synthetic biology is something that you should be completely against because they're changing everything that is natural about the world.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You want to save the world by changing the world from
Yeah,
what
by,
it
by
is.
making the world synthetic,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah, that's gonna work, right?
some people that it's hard to put that together, I guess, when you're watching a lot of television.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people are just under mind control, so it's a hell of a battle. But I guess you are setting a good example by going out and talking to people and being part of co-ops and just being a thorn if you need to be.
I am.
But getting the message
Uh,
across though, because if you're passionate about it because you understand. I mean, we should all be passionate about it. I
yeah,
mean,
because this is gonna get real bad. This is gonna get
well,
it already is really bad,
you
but
just say those words. You are what you eat. That's all
yeah.
you have to say, right? I mean, then it all makes sense because then, oh, wait a second. Yes, food. Well, water and food. I mean, you could live under a tree, but you can, I mean, die eventually, probably of the cold or whatever, depending where you are. But I'm saying, like, you cannot survive without food and water. So
Yeah.
those are the two most important things for any human being. Is you cannot survive air, obviously, that goes without saying. But just having to sustain yourself, sustain your family, food is critical, and it affects everything. So everything that look at all these things that people are, like I mentioned before, all the different diagnoses. Every day there's a new disease, there's a new condition, there's a new pill for a new solution. There's and it's like there's a new category and a new it just never ends. And it's like, well, wait a second. Actually, the solutions are, in many ways, it's what you're eating. Like so many of people that are suffering from whatever they're suffering from. I mean, so many different disorders, depression for one. I mean, if I eat junk food, and I've gone through phases where it's like, live in a city, being a student, stuff like that, where you live in a city, you're being a student, you're eating a lot of junk food because you're hanging out with people and you're going to bars and you're getting your McMeals and stuff like that. It's easy to fall into a depression when you're eating junk food all the time. In fact, it's almost impossible not to.
Oh, yeah,
So
they know what they're doing. They know what they're tripping in your brain with this stuff. They know how to make you that way.
yeah, it's
That's
just
why
like with
that's the
that
cheap food.
unhappy meals.
Yep. Couldn't be any truer, right?
I mean, it's like you eat that stuff,
Perfect
you're
name.
gonna be unhappy. You
Yep.
you cannot, I mean, come on, come on. I mean, that's exactly what's probably the root of the cause or the problem that you have. And it's like, no, 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 you're amazing, you're awesome, you are entitled to being unhappy. You're entitled because you know what, the world sucks, society sucks, it's everybody else's fault. Eat your unhappy meal and go ahead and embrace your unhappiness. It's like,
Yep.
no, don't eat that crap. Get outside, get away from this. I mean, really, I mean, the solutions are there. It's difficult for so many of us, though, because so many of us are stuck in these mega cities, and then more and more each day because that's all by design, right?
Yeah.
And they are targeting, all sort of like they're moving people out of the coastal areas. They're my belief, with the selected fires and stuff that they, who knows how they're doing this, but it seems like over and over again, the massive hurricanes that seem to be, have really unusual sort of patterns of behavior and stuff like that. For years, ever since I've been doing this, I've been saying they've been manipulating the weather to push us away to comply with Agenda 21, which
Yeah.
is moving everybody into mega cities and getting everybody, and then eventually, yeah, we're on the food rations. Eventually we will be on the Soylent Green. I mean, who makes a product and calls it Soylent Green and actually sells it? I mean, what kind of a sick mind would actually even entertain that? And then what kind of sick people would actually buy that product? And you know what? That product, you may not know this. I covered this in a video. There's all kinds of controversy around the product that it actually is carcinogenic. It actually is affecting, of course, the reproductive system of males and females, right? Like they're like it's like these actual products that they're pushing that are going to save the environment are actually depopulating the planet. They're actually purposely, making people sterile, and it's just so devious. It's so dark.
Didn't
Like
like
epicite. You know about
sweet
epicite corn, right?
epicite corn. Is that the has a suicide gene?
Yes.
Maybe.
The epicite corn, which is not new, it's old. It's been around for years. I covered this way back in 2012, and I think it had been well known for many years before that. But this is, again, Monsanto, where it's a type of corn that if you eat it, you'll go sterile.
That's a great one.
It's so
Wait, isn't
crazy.
all kinds of food corn based?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Cornmeal, and then soy, of course, and all the soy is genetically modified. Well, I mean, not all. I mean, if you can get organic soy, there's nothing wrong with it, right? It could be very healthy, I'm sure. I know Vanonimus is a big soy, but he's all
Yep.
organic sort of thing, right? But the problem is that pretty much 100% of the soy that you get, at least not the kind that you would get in the organic section, but the kind that you would get in most of your foods, has been genetically modified, and it is like a staple sort of base ingredient to most of what we eat.
And
There's
if they
almost
modified it with CRISPR, they don't have to call it GMO.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's crazy. Modified.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. So yeah. Oh wow. I mean, where is it
wanna
all going to go?
I
Go
want
ahead.
to put a link in the chat of
Mhm.
really, it's a good talk that was the Synbiobeta people, and I will put it about 21 minutes in. I'm going to do it right now. They really explain these synthetic biology foods. I think because people, you can't wait for me to make it into a video because I want to, but I just haven't. Did it show up there? I haven't got to do anything lately, and this one's a pretty good explanation. I'll put it in here for you too, Jeff.
Yeah.
So if you can check that out and get to understand a little better what they're talking about, what they're doing, then maybe you can go sit at the Burger King, and talk to people if you have a little bit of time, because it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, and or even print up, you know,
Yeah,
just print up, not don't make it offensive, but put information on a piece of paper and make a bunch of copies.
I love having my business cards, which I have to get more
Yeah.
printed, but that's been just one of the best things that I did because it's really helpful to be able to hand people something. Maybe they're I don't know. I don't know if everybody comes and listens and looks, but maybe some of them do.
Well, that's
But
it. No, the people will, if they care, if it's funny the way these things work sometimes. Sometimes it might take a while. Sometimes maybe it sits in the bottom of their purse or in their wallet for a year or two, and then all of a sudden they find it and they're like, maybe I'll check this out, right?
I had fun because there was actually someone at my co-op that knew me. It was a newer person that knew me as "Please stop the ride." Not my name. They didn't know my name, but yeah, so that was fun. I was thinking I should get some printed with like the Buy Awareness Day. That video you did was so great, and so to get like that link or something on a card, probably just get 50 of them because you never know how
Well,
long they'll
put
let
your
you stay
YouTube
up.
channel. You got to put
But
your YouTube channel because
yep.
it's great. Put that and put your Steam it.
Well, but to give other information, like I'm giving for people should consider to push. I know that your stuff gets pulled down all the time, but I mean, some of
Mhm.
the we can share that way too. Yeah, not just like a Facebook post or anything, but yeah, give direct to the information you want them to see. I think
Well,
it's great.
we have to bob, duck, and weave because of their systems, their platforms are
Yeah.
not designed for. I mean, they don't want this type of information.
Yeah, they're invested in that future. They want They
Yeah.
want these things.
Yeah. So they wanna keep us all under their control, sort of thing, and not have people stand up and question this stuff. And everybody needs to. I mean, to me, really, the foods. I don't know what could be more important. I mean, it's all important. Everything that we all kind of cover. I'm saying people in this realm. It's all like 5G, obviously, big deal. Depopulation, climate change. All these things are very, very important. But yeah, the food at the end of the day, right? What's in your food?
Yeah.
What is going on, right? Like, because that will directly affect you and everyone you know. So that this is where you be the change you want to see, though, as well, right? Set that example. Um, that's what I try to do. Is I mean, I do the best that I can, but I'm in a big city, so it's very difficult for me to find farmers. There are farmer markets, though. It's like we have more and more these days.
They truck in that stuff in my area. The farmers market, so
Yeah,
many of
yeah,
them, they're coming from who knows where.
yeah, exactly. It's
California.
just
Uh,
that's where it's like, because then they can contain that as well. Because it's like you get, oh, well, I'll go to the farmers market, but then you know where that stuff is coming from, right?
yeah, what
And
did they do to that?
you're not going to the actual farm itself.
There's
Nah.
there has to be something sort of near you. You do have to leave town probably.
Oh yeah, well, that's it. Like it's difficult for me to leave town because I'm on an island and I'm in the middle of it. So it means going through massive traffic and going over bridges and tunnels and stuff like that. So it's not that easy. And then outside of the island, the city is just as big, or surrounding the island is the city, on the island, sort of thing. So I'm in like a megalopolis sort of thing. So it can be pretty difficult to get out and find these types of places. So right now, I try my best. Like some of the things I do, like I eat a lot of what I say Whole Foods, and people think I'm promoting the
The
corporation Whole
store.
Foods. No, I'm not at
Yeah.
all. I'm talking, apples and you know pears and whatever. I mean, fruits and vegetables, but organic. If whenever I can, it's always more expensive, but that's what I'll go for. And I avoid all the processed foods and synthetic foods. And if I buy meats, it's straight from the butcher, sort of thing. And
I don't know if it's available up there, but I know my sister lives in a big city and there's actually a farm that delivers into the city. They
mm,
bring, but there's Joel Salatin, that Polyface Farms guy. I know he has a model that people around me use too. Well, not right near me, but that they sort of like jettison the food out to all sorts of all over the place
mhm.
in old lift buses with coolers and ice. But trying people I could try to bring that into the big cities. There's a great lifestyle opportunity. Somebody could change their life and become a food producer and bring it to the people that can't get it, like Jeff. That'd be good.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, because that'll be a huge market in the future.
Oh
Because
yeah.
if you can get enough people to, and this could be a good thing. I mean, it could be a business that you could be on the cutting edge, sort of thing, where you get into a market before anybody else does.
Yeah,
Uh,
I want to see so many things. I want somebody to start manufacturing like real refrigerators, like old refrigerators sort of thing, like old tech, like just a simple stove. Like, wait, people should make these things because everything's IoT now, like to
Oh, I
buy
agree.
anything.
I agree so much. I think about that all the time because it's like I'll never buy a new car because it's a
Yeah.
surveillance device.
Yeah.
I have an old fridge, but it's not one of those 1940s style, but it's an old fridge. It's from like probably like the 80s or something like that, right? Um, so, and if refrigerators work, I mean, it's you might have to replace the Freon or something, but it's a pretty simple sort of device, and even those old fridges still work if you get them up and running. So yeah, go back, take a few steps back, have less in the fridge, but have more, like healthy foods and stuff like that. Um, just things like that. Try to grow as much of your own produce as you can. Buy organic seeds. Maybe even invest in organic seeds. I don't know how long you can keep seeds for quite some time, eh, Camille?
If I think you have to keep them in the fridge and maybe airtight.
Yeah, you could be
Yeah.
airtight or like in a cool, like a basement or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can. invest in seeds and stuff like that. And yeah, just I mean, like they're with the tech and everything, the way things are moving like that. There will be other ways of getting this type of food. I'm lucky though. In Montreal, it's a big port city, so we get so much food from Europe and from the Middle East and Africa, because we're like the closest big port to Europe, basically. So a lot of foods that come in are just straight, like no frills sort of thing. And Europe has been anti-GMO for quite some time.
Yeah, but
Um,
they've got all this stuff going on over
yeah, I
there.
know.
It's and I know I'm a bit of a broken record, but if this doesn't stop, none of us will be safe. If this doesn't stop, they'll get to us one way or another. I mean, I know Jules talked a lot also about DARPA's Insect Allies program, where they were modifying insects to be able to fly into a field of crops and nibble on them, and their spittle changes the plants. Like they put a virus, like a
How
created, like
diabolical!
everything will be able to be altered. So, I mean,
In the
it's
in
it's
the Black Mirror, they had the I don't know if you've seen the episode with the bees, the
mm-mm,
bee drones,
no.
because
I only saw 2 episodes.
yeah, yeah, there's an episode where it's in UK, and for whatever reason the bees have been wiped out, so they've created bee drones, basically a corporation. So they have like billions of them, right? And they can monitor them, and and they do their job. They basically do the job collecting the pollen, right? And they have their hives and they reproduce. They're nanotech. But then they start killing people.
Yay. Who saw that coming?
Yeah, I know. And the way that
Gosh.
they kill people is the worst too, because they fly up into into one of your orifices, like your ear or your nose or something like that, your mouth, and they go to your nerve center in your brain. So they go to the most painful. They stimulate the most painful part in your brain, and they center in on that. So they cause so much pain that the people do anything to kill themselves, basically.
Oh my word.
So people are like cutting their necks, like slicing their necks or their jugular veins and stuff like that, like just or blowing their heads off or whatever. So you see stuff like that. Then you see all the birds the bees are dying. What's happening to the bees? And you're like, oh, don't worry, we'll replace them with bee drones. Oh, that's gonna work. Yeah, that'll be great. No, the insect drones creep me out almost as much as
But
the
these are insects, like actual bugs that they're
yeah, I know
modifying.
that's even worse then,
Yeah.
because it's like you're messing with Mother Nature,
Oh,
and you're turning perfectly harmonious sort of creatures that have existed forever into weapons, and it's like they have no say, and it's just so evil. It's like,
it's a total disrespect of life, all kinds of life. That's why my last video, I know it kind of seemed like I was picking on the vegans. Maybe I was a little bit, but I'm thinking these people care. They care about life,
yeah.
some life. So I thought maybe they would care if they realized just how manipulated life is. Maybe they would join my side here and help, because they do seem to care a lot, but it's outside of ethical veganism, I guess.
Well,
I got called all
yeah,
kinds of funny names for that
I think
video.
we like that's the whole thing though. It's like people's altruism is misplaced. Like they do care.
Yeah, they wanna
And
get rid of we wanna get rid of plastic. Oh, we need to have compostable plastic. Oh, how did they make that? Synthetic biology. Like all of these things that they
yeah.
play on people's wanting things to be better? Yeah. Sorry.
And it's so easy to be played because your media is all controlled,
Yep.
and it's like, so are your movies. So your Sundance festivals that are putting out this type of propaganda have ulterior motives. Like, yeah, okay, some of the stuff is bad that's going on, obviously, with these big, agriculture producers and pig farms and whatever else. But what is the ultimate objective of these Agenda 21 sort of type propaganda that they're using to condition people into these movements, and these movements are always controlled. That's the whole thing. They're always controlled.
And this new food thing, I mean, that should be like alarm bells for people because all the big food monsters are all about this stuff. You know, the same people that brought us the horror that is this industrialized food. They're right on board. They're heavy
Yeah.
invested. I mean, Tyson, I have an article somewhere around here that they had been getting rid of all different lines and things that they were involved in to focus on protein years ago, like
Mhm.
just getting ready for it. But you want to support like humanity and in real life is you can't be buying from any of these companies. It's in
Yeah.
your I mean they make carpet with synthetic biology, they make clothing with
Mhm.
synthetic biology now. Everything this is going to get really out of hand. It already is, but yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's just over and over again. I mean, the general sort of, yeah, again and again, you just reemphasizes the need for humans to take a few steps back to move forward. I mean,
yeah.
the thing is that these corporations are never going to be our friends. They're never going to. They never have been. I mean, McDonald's, are you kidding me? McDonald's is as evil as you could possibly imagine. If you think McDonald's is a good corporation, you're a bad person. You're just not, you have no idea. McDonald's, their whole thing, their whole, why they became successful. They were just another crappy fast food joint back in whenever they started, 1960s, I think, right? And how did they emerge to become this international phenom? Well, think about it. What is iconic with McDonald's aside from the golden arches? It's the
Hmm.
clown,
Oh yeah.
Ronald McDonald. So what was it? Well, the answer is this: they went for the kids. So
Yeah.
their whole philosophy, which is evil beyond belief, is let's get the kids right out of the womb as early as possible. We'll make ads targeting the children. We'll use cartoon characters like Ronald McDonald the clown to program kids into craving this food. We'll get the parents to give the food as early as possible, even as babies. They'll give them McDonald's food. The chemicals get in the system, the kids develop an addiction to McDonald's. People, I'm sure you may not know this, but I'll tell you this just in case you don't know it. The chemicals in your McDonald's and in your burger thing and all your fast food are designed to addict you, just like the nicotine that they would and everything else that they would put in the cigarettes to addict you. So that every time that you actually drive by one of these places or you walk by one of these places, that as soon as you see the arches, there's a thing that goes off in your brain because the chemicals are already there. They're still interacting with you from before, and your body, your brain is craving the food and is telling you to go. This is a total manipulation. So the McDonald's developed their whole philosophy. This is why they became an empire. Was that we're going to addict kids as early as possible, and we're going to use what they call the nag factor. I'm sure you know what that is, eh?
I want a Happy
Yeah,
Meal.
I want McDonald's. I want McDonald's. So that the kids nag, and the toy manufacturers did this as well. I mean, they borrowed it from McDonald's. I showed this years back. I did a lot of videos on McDonald's, like and how they target black neighborhoods and stuff like that, poor people. Like that's their gold. There's nothing good about these. I work for McDonald's too. Let me tell you, it's the worst garbage food ever. It's disgusting. And I'm sure, a lot of people probably listening to this probably worked at McDonald's at some point or time or at one of these like sort of burger thing or Taco Hell or whatever. These places are awful and they're not good for kids. And people tell you, oh, it's good. You learn good principles. No, it's garbage, right? Working in these corporations, you're just pushing the same toxic chemicals on humanity that are
There's
making
some
people sick.
karmic retribution for that, pushing that stuff and
Yeah.
participating. Yeah.
It's just awful, evil stuff, and it's not good. And it's okay. Like I say this all the time. I say the way it should be is this, right? Like, okay, we have got big cities. We can all accept that. We're not going to get rid of them. Likely in the next 100 years or so, they're going to be here for a while. But should we have McDonald's on every boulevard, and then Burger King on every boulevard too, and then Taco Bell on every I mean, this is a cancer on society. So it's like these things are a reflection. They're cancerous. They're cancers. Like if you were to look at them from above, sort of thing, you could actually make the argument that these are cancers, cancer cells in this in the infrastructure of a city, and that they're actually here to hurt and harm people. They do not do anything other than provide income and jobs, which are terrible jobs, Mick jobs. You can't live off a Mick job. Are you kidding? You can't buy a home. You can't support a family. It's a joke. So, there's nothing good about these places. I wouldn't have a problem if there was one McDonald's in every city, or maybe two at most, sort of thing. I wouldn't have a problem with it because it'd just be like, oh yeah, whatever. I went there a couple of years ago, but they're everywhere. I can literally hit a McDonald's within a stone's throw where I live. I mean, the one that they built here went up in 2 months. They built it in 2 months. It's like Sim City. And it's like, no, these things are cancer on society, and I will not budge from that view, and I have no respect whatsoever for them. And I think that, and again, that's not even talking about with the plant-based and all the stuff that they're doing now, with the Impossible Burgers, and which is just takes it to another level, right? Because it's adding insult to injury now. It's like not now they're not even giving you, like they say 100% pure beef. That's total baloney, of course, like literally baloney. Fake meat, mostly just chemicals and other things that they throw in there. But I mean, at least you supposedly had part of a cow in there at some point in time. What are you going to have now in these things? So it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
And and these things are not only are that they open up Ronald McDonald homes, right? And they have community centers. And it's like they go under the guise of altruism, like that they're actually caring for communities when they're cancer on all communities. They're cancer on society. Kids that go to McDonald's at a young age end up obese at a young age in elementary school. I see obese kids every day.
Yeah.
And I just want to take the parents and berate them in public and say, how on earth could you let your kid get like this? What is the matter with you? Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding? You've got a 5-year-old that's obese? Do you know how terrible that is? Then they're normalizing, getting diabetes and stuff like that, right? And it's like, oh, diabetes centers, it's normal. And, no, it's not normal. These things are not normal. It's not normal for kids to be sick. It's not normal for kids to be depressed. It's not normal for all these things. I mean, it's not at all. They're making it normal.
Yeah, it's good for business.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. It gets so like that's what I say. I mean, some people would know this, but like a lot of people haven't been following me all that long. But way back, I used to cover this stuff all the time. I used to cover the foods regularly. I talked about it all the time, especially genetically modified foods and stuff like that. So that's why it to this day it's very important for me. That's why I enjoy very much having you on, Camille, because I think it's super important to talk about this stuff because you are what you eat.
I appreciate the platform to talk. Sure, you got a bigger soapbox, so it's good.
Oh well, yeah, it's always being pulled out from underneath me. So, but hey, you people go and sub Camille. I put her link in the description there. Definitely, you're gonna get some great. You got some excellent videos there, Camille. So.
There's more to come. My head is just ready to pop. So one of these days, I'm gonna get some hours to just sit down and do things.
Awesome. So are you ready to close up then?
If you're ready, what time is
it? No, because I don't know if you're getting tired.
I am. I'm sorry. I'm not so peppy.
No, it's okay. So I don't want to keep you on. That's what I'm saying. But if you want to stick around a bit longer, we can go a bit more.
I could hang out a little longer.
All right, cool. So hey, I'll give the floor to you here. What would you want? You've got an audience now listening. There's going to be a lot more people listening because I'll take this video after and I'll upload it to Jeff Censored live. Okay. So I don't know how many people we got. We got about 67 people listening right now. What would you want to tell these folks? Like, what would be the thing that you'd think is most important for people to be thinking about?
Well, maybe for a lot of people, it might seem like an unrealistic thing to stop eating the convenient foods, and maybe you think your family would be irritated if you ruin their life and stop buying their favorite snacks and everything. But really, we are the problem. We caused it by participating in all this, even though we didn't really know, right? But I know that I I used to eat a lot of bad food, and I used to be a completely different person, and I've totally turned my life around over quite a long period of time. But I mean, you've got the shortcut of you have good people that are telling you, like Jeff is saying, all these ways that you're being manipulated, and I'm telling you about the foods and what to avoid, and there's you don't have to go and search it out for yourself. So you can change. You can. I know people want to tell me all the time, oh, people don't change. No, we do. We change all the time, and you can. And if more of us wanted the world to be better, I know we only need so many people, right? Isn't there some sort of tipping point or something when an idea could really take hold that, wait a minute, we don't have to live in this sick world. It can go away and we could do better things, because just because we've been guided along in this insanity by these people for generations, we don't have to do it anymore. We can just choose a better way. But you got to tell people because they don't know. There's that saying, the only people that are free to choose are those who know the choices. Well, they don't know. They don't know. And people, I mean, just like my sister's friend today, you tell them one little thing and they get curious and they want to find out, and it can totally change. I mean, that person has children. So now because she wants to talk to me on the phone. So when I send her to Jeff's channel next, it's like these waves, you change all sorts of stuff by wanting to make your life better, and and then sharing about it. And I know when I clicked on the chat there, I saw just anonymous go by, or that you're antisocial. We got to stop that. They want us to be antisocial and be in your bubble. But you
Yep.
gotta
Yep.
talk to people that are totally different from you,
Oh
and
yeah.
really just let them know, because they are these all these poor people around you. They're under attack and they don't even know it. And it's a hard one for people to take, though. It's somebody said to become this new person, like the old you has to die. I could totally see that. It's a shock, and you have to get rid of everything that you were like, because it's
Well,
all
I don't think
nonsense.
everything,
Well,
but
so much of
yeah.
it is, I mean, unless you're one of these great people that has a lot of really good points. I mean, I know I was full on. I was a total boob. I really was. I had no idea.
What just out of curiosity, if you don't mind sharing, what started the change for you?
What started the change for me,
Yeah.
the earliest thing I can remember is someone explaining to me the my name in capital letters and the Social Security number, and how that wasn't me. That wasn't me. That was just this fictitious thing made up by the government, and that I
Yeah.
was just agreeing to go along with it. And then it was like a snowball effect from
That
there.
is that's a good one too.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, what are you? Who gave you that? How did you get what? You are a
Yeah.
social insurance number. We're going to be a credit score pretty soon.
Yeah.
We already are in many ways.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I do agree. People do change. I think people change when they want to.
Yep. Or when they
Or
have
they
to.
need to, right?
Yeah. There
If
you
you
go.
really want to or you need to, that's usually when you change. So,
Yeah.
like sometimes it takes somebody going through something very traumatic. Usually that's the case. If you're stubborn and you're stuck in your ways, it takes something major to happen. But it's usually the story, like a novel or even a movie follows that type of arc. That's basic story, right? Like you have a protagonist that has to go through a journey, and when they go through the journey, they've come out stronger, they come out better because they've been challenged and they've had to rise up to the challenges, and that made them into a better person. So I think that, yeah, that's the whole thing, though, is like challenging yourself regularly is very important. Exercise is challenging yourself, right? So like if you exercise daily, every day you're challenging your body, you're forcing your body, because your body, wants to just I mean, it doesn't necessarily, the more you exercise, the more you want to do things, the more your body is like, I want to exercise, I want to do this, I want to. But it's much easier for you just to slouch and not do those things. So when you force yourself to exercise, you challenge your body. And it's the same thing with your mind. If you're challenging your brain, if every day you're reading something and you're thinking critically about it, because that's the way I am with everything. Like everything I read, I'm like, who wrote it? What's the corporation? Who owns this? Like that's the way I think about these things, because then I think, get the bigger picture, get what it's really about, get where it's coming from, understand what's behind it, right? And then you see what the objectives are, and that makes it much easier. So
And if you can just get that you don't know everything, you're probably wrong about stuff, and be okay.
definitely.
I'm wrong. Well, how can I find ways to grow there? You were saying you were saying stories that made me think, how I've got a thing for Michael Crichton's State of Fear. I have 2 family members now that has completely people. If you've got family members that believe the CO2 driven man-made climate change, they got to read Michael Crichton's State of Fear. This is 2 people completely. I don't believe that anymore. They don't believe that anymore. And you know what I said? And I made them kind of upset because I told both of them, I was like, well, you see all this stuff in the news where they keep pushing this
Yeah.
point. What do you think else that they're telling you that maybe isn't right? You know, what do you think of that? And it made them uncomfortable. It was pretty funny.
That's it though. It's you're shifting their paradigm. You're starting to threaten
Yeah,
their
but that
their comfort zone.
that book is a killer way to
I'm gonna have to read
shatter.
it then.
It's good. It's a page turner too, for it's a novel. And
Michael
then
Crichton, right?
Michael
The guy that
Crichton's
wrote
State of Fear.
Jurassic Park and
Jurassic Park
Andromeda
is a
Strain.
great book to read. It's way better than the movie.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, yeah. Usually
Yeah.
that's the case, right?
He
But
he gave the science behind all of his stuff. That's
he
helpful.
did he direct? If I'm not mistaken, I think he directed some movies as well,
Yeah,
including
I think so.
one of my favorites is Westworld.
Yeah. I never
Um,
saw it, but I've yeah, I think so.
mm. The Westworld that's been rebooted is far darker. It's so dark, I have a really hard time watching it. It
That's like
disturbs me.
robots, right? Like
Oh,
robot.
it's transhumanism. It's yeah, it's basically I mean it's okay, so the premise is, well, in the original movie, because it wasn't a book, he just came up with the idea. He was a writer, but he was also a script writer sort of thing. And so he wrote this. He basically wrote it, if I'm not mistaken, because I did cover it in a video on Supreme Lord Commander years back. And as from my recollection, he basically wrote the movie while he was filming it. And but it's quite brilliant. The original one, it's more campy and fun, where it's an amusement park set in the future. So it's a future amusement park where there's 3 parks. There's the Rome World, there's I think it's Shogun World, and then there's no, there's Rome World, there's Medieval World, and then there's West World. And so the story follows 2 buddies who are like businessmen or whatever, and they're going for a trip, and you can live out your fantasy. So in Westworld, or in any of these worlds, you're interacting like it's like a real world set in a certain time era, and all the characters are played by robots, but they look just like human beings. You can't really tell them apart. The only thing that you can tell is from their hands, sort of thing. So you can do whatever you want, basically. So you, like in Westworld, it's the male fantasy to go and bang whores and get in gunfights and drink whiskey, and that's basically what they do. And but what happens is something goes wrong, and the robots start to reject their programming and start hurting and killing the humans, basically. And that's basically it in a nutshell. That's the original one. The new series is far more, it's far darker and more thought out. And I believe it's Christopher Nolan's brother who has been involved in a number of projects, and so the Nolan brothers are major players in New World Order, sort of propaganda and movies and stuff like that. And in the new one, it's like, okay, so the humans go to it's Westworld. There's no other Roman world or medieval world, but the humans go and they can live out their fantasies. So a basic fantasy is to be a psychopath, basically, right? To go and do whatever you want. So there's a quote in it: these violent sort of delights have violent outcomes, sort of thing. That's like I paraphrasing. I don't really remember the exact quote, but it's something like that. And that's a central theme: is that human beings that go to these parks to act out their fantasies end up, paying for it. Like they end up, because you can't live that way and not have repercussions, because you are acting out in a way that will ultimately hurt you, because you are doing things that are unnatural, sort of thing. And so in many ways it flips the tables, where the robots, who are indistinguishable completely from humans, they look exactly like humans, are more human than the humans themselves. And again, the robots again rise up and violently overtake the humans. And it's extremely complex, and that you don't know who's human. Another show that did the exact same thing was Battlestar Galactica. A very similar theme, where it's in Battlestar Galactica, and they're rebooting that series, by the way. But there's the science fiction series that was very popular, and it ran about 15 years ago, I'd say. And I watched the whole thing, and it's again the same thing, where it's like the Cylons, who are robots, synthetic human beings, but you can't tell them apart. They can't even tell themselves apart. And some of them are like sleepers, so you don't know. Like some of them act like humans and think they're humans that are fighting with the humans, and all of a sudden they realize that they're Cylons, sort of thing, that they're actually robots. So it's really disturbing, these films, and this is like very, very heavy in the transhumanist sort of realm of where humanity's going, where human beings will be designed like the CRISPR babies, basically. So there's a lot of that goes in, and then the central theme is what is human, and again, what we're going to see over and over again is that what is human is going to be completely changed, because we are, without a doubt, I'd say within the next 5 years, you're going to know about clones. Like they're going to be several, probably celebrities, that will come forth as being clones, and it'll be identified. I predict this will be part of a major psyop, and I believe that a lot of the LGBT type legislation, Equality Act, Bill C-16, all these things are a precursor to set the table for not only the CRISPR babies, but the clones and the transhumanist types of humans that are coming forth. So what I believe is that they're altering humanity, and they're setting the table for it. And they're prepping us for this complete change. The transgenders, which, the Baphomet sort of, she-male sort of thing, is a lot where they're taking it, where they're going to, like they're already doing this. I mean, by and large, what you see, like what YouTube is it's evil beyond belief, but they are destroying males and merging males with females. They're turning the women into men and the men into women. So all the popular YouTubers are extreme beta males and homosexuals and dress up like girls. Jeffree Star, James Charles, all these characters are showing this future type of human beings, where they're merging the two sexes together. And then they're going to merge it with machines. And this is already happening. And we have to anticipate that they're many years ahead of what they're showing us. So that I would say that there's definitely clones among us already, definitely. And that it's all going to kind of come out in the future. And then in many ways, the clones will be more human than the humans themselves, or at least that's the way that the media will depict them, because that's what you see in the movies and the shows and all that. Anyways, go ahead.
They talk about cloning and Jewish eugenics too. They do. Yeah. I think definitely.
There was a video game that came out last year that's called Detroit Beyond Human. And again, the same theme. It was like one of the big games of the year. And it was like a mega, and they spent hundreds of millions on this, Camille. Like these games are way bigger than movies these days. I don't know if you know that, but the gaming industry makes way more money, and so the games they put hundreds of millions, if not billions, into producing these, because they have a much longer shelf life and they can sell way more and people play them way longer. And then there's all these updates and upgrades and different chapters that you can purchase. So it's an ongoing thing. But the basic theme of the Detroit Beyond Human is a future in which the robots are more human than the humans themselves.
Yeah, they might get us to that point, right?
Yes.
How many people that are animal rights people, not animal rights, but that care about animals are playing those video
Activists.
games? Like remember that one video, the Clint Richardson thing, where he's talking about how they get those sounds and everything. It's like these are tortured animals that you're hearing in all these different ways in your games and your alien movies and things, and you're taking it as your entertainment,
Yeah.
you're all right with it there.
That's it.
Yeah.
He's got a good point there, and
Well, he was a sound guy for Hollywood, so
really, so
yeah.
he might know some dark stuff, eh? Then
Yeah, that video is why I left the industry, is what it's called, Clint Richardson, why I left
wow,
the
that's
industry. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, KJ was in the industry a bit too. He was in the reality television, if I'm not mistaken. But
Oh boy.
yeah, so and then he becomes doing this type of work as well. So I think a lot of people wake up going through these networks sort of thing, realizing a lot of what's going on and how evil it really is. There's no other way to put it, in my opinion. That's why I really am super skeptical about the foods and what they're doing with the foods. Like, yeah, okay, maybe they want to help themselves, but they sure as hell don't give an fuck about us. That's for sure, because there's
Oh
no
no.
way
Will
with
be
what.
so easy to be easily controlled.
Yeah,
It's
I
I
think it's
mean,
sad too, because it's like so many people are getting sick,
yeah.
whether it's mentally sick or physically sick, right? Which are many times the same, right? Because you get physically sick, you're going to be mentally sick, right? It's
Oh yeah, I mean, your gut bacteria,
yeah,
super important for your mental health.
yeah, exactly. So, and then they normalize it, and then they promote it everywhere. So that's why I say about the cancers. I never want to belittle cancer when I talk about it. Sometimes people might get that wrong. But I'm not getting it wrong. Trust me, I have enough people that around me that have suffered and died and stuff like that. So it's real and it's killing people. That the reality is that why are so many more people getting it these days? And it's like, just like, why are so many more people depressed? Why are well, they're manufacturing it. So if they're manufacturing our depression, which is undeniable, it's undeniable. It's all around you. They're normalizing depression. They're normalizing cancer. That's what I'm saying. They're normalizing obesity. They're normalizing LGBTQ+XYZ, which is, and again, it's nothing against the people that fall into it. It's never, these people are victims in my mind, but that's not a normal way to be, and that's not a way that's going to be happy for you. It could be for some, but for most, it's going to be an empty sort of bad existence sort of thing. And then they're going to say, well, it's everybody else's fault. It's the society's fault that you feel the way you do because they won't accept you. And it's like, no, you're just sick. You're not well. That's the truth. And the truth is that the telly made you that way. The foods made you that way. The video games, your addictions made you that way, and it's nobody's fault but the NWO. It's not society's fault. Society is sick too because society is being programmed by our controllers.
Yeah, we've been made to be this way. The learned helplessness, like people can't fix themselves. Oh, I don't feel well. I'm going to wait until I can get to the doctor's office for them to help me, when nature's all around you. And if you knew what people knew a long time ago, then you could just start fixing yourself right away, but you probably wouldn't be in that shape in the first place.
Well,
But
that's it. I mean,
everybody gets sick, so
cavemen didn't have doctors, right?
yeah,
you
and some
know,
of them
and-
died. All right, but
yeah,
they also
it's like you got to get up and work. It's like what we said before, and I should make a video on this, but the centenarians, is that how you call it? The people that live to 100 sort of thing.
I think so.
They It's almost universal. Like it's diet, it's lifestyle, diet, and attitude. Those are the three things.
Yeah.
So think about it. What is the lifestyle? Well, almost all these people that live to 100 are people that work all their lives. It's not that they're working in McD's. I mean, that wouldn't work. It's that they're doing outdoor work, that they're gardening, or they're they're taking care of crops, or they're domesticated animals, or they're carpenters or whatever. They're doing something physical, and they're outside all day. Their attitude, of course, because instead of worrying about this and that and everything that's on the telly and on the internet, and being staring at your Black Mirror all day, or every chance you get, walking down the street looking at your Black Mirror, they're looking at the sun, they're looking up at the clouds, they're breathing in the fresh air, they're outside, so their attitude is in harmony with the nature around them.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore, and then what they eat, of course, is that they're eating the real foods, they're eating the real stuff. And so their body, this is the whole thing, the alkaline and that whole balance as well is extremely important. But the whole thing is that if you have that balance in your life, then your body gets into a rhythm, and the rhythm keeps you functioning at a great level. So that there are people that are in their 80s that are functioning better than people than in their teens and in their 20s that are on the mixed diets. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like there are people that are way more capable in their 70s, 80s, and even 90s in some of these places, because they're using their hands and their muscles, and they're outside every day, than people that are playing video games, eating the McMeals, and confused about their gender.
Yeah.
It's like, so there are simple solutions to what is ailing most people. The thing is, no, you've got this, you've got that, you take these pills, take those pills, take this when you go to bed, take this when you wake up, right? And it's like, no, you're not. You're not dealing with the root of the problem. You're just adding more to it, and then you're not fixing anything. You're just prolonging and making it worse, because it's just going to manifest and get worse. I mean, none of the depression medicine works on anybody. None of it works. It might work for a week or two, or a month or two, or even a year or two, but it never works. It can never work for the people. So these antidepressants that they're getting everybody on are just garbage. Like they're actually contributing to people's suicide, and they are normalizing suicide. They're not only normalizing suicide, they're glamorizing it, just like they're normalizing euthanasia. Right.
Yeah.
And that all fits into like what I mentioned before about Soylent Green, Agenda 21, depopulation. Like, how long before they start saying, you know what, people probably shouldn't live into their 70s and 80s? How long? Like, are they already saying that? Because they are in many ways, right? They put out all these movies all the time about people that are suffering because they can't kill themselves, and they win Sundance Festival Best Pictures and stuff like that, and they're the worst movies ever.
I never heard of that one.
Yeah, they've got a bunch of them, like people that want to kill themselves, and how awful it is that society won't let them do it. There's a bunch of movies like that, and they win all these awards. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a bunch of them. Trust me. I can't name them off right now, but I can think of one in particular, which is the guy Friendo there from whatchamacallit, No Country for Old Men, and he plays a guy that was paralyzed from the neck down, and he just wanted to kill himself, but society wouldn't let him. So he got a friend to do it for him, and the whole movie was about how society was wrong, and he should have just been allowed to kill himself. There's so many of these coming out. This is a typical thing that they're conditioning people into, euthanasia. So just like now they're pushing, cannibalism. Well, don't knock it. Why not? It's free meat. It's just going in the ground. And it's like, whoa, like, you don't go there. That's no. I mean, there's a million reasons. But hey, guess what? At the same time, get this, Camille. In Nova Scotia and several provinces, Nova Scotia is the one I can name offhand for sure. They have gotten rid of the you sign your Medicare card, because you have a Medicare card here in Canada that gets you. I mean, you kind of almost have to have it because you get the health care. So the one good thing about Canada is that if you get sick, you go to the hospital, you don't pay anything, right? Um, there there used to be that you'd sign the card in the back, which if you died in an accident, then you sign the card, then your organs would be there for somebody else, so you could donate your organs. They got rid of that. They're getting rid of it in every province, basically.
Now is it what, just a
It's obligatory,
default, or
meaning,
yeah, okay.
yeah, like if you get it, I mean, who knows? He's not dead yet. You never know,
Well,
right?
have
But
you ever heard of the living cadavers thing? It's like that. Oh
mhm.
gosh, what they do with people that are still technically alive, and oh, it's so creepy. It's
I had a buddy that became a doctor who's in med school, and he used to tell me how they used to the McGill, which is the most prestigious university in Canada. It's the big med school here in Montreal, and he used to say that in med school they would play around with the corpses all the time, and they would take body parts and play pranks on each other.
yeah.
Like,
The
and
living
ever
cadaver
since he
thing.
told me that, I'm like, I'm
Oh
never signing my card.
no.
But they've got rid of it. So guess what? In Nova Scotia, you have to actually go to a government office and fill out a form saying I do not want my organs donated. Now, I've had friends, close friends, that have been saved by organ donations. So I'm not here to say that you shouldn't donate your organs. I think if you know, I think that should be a personal thing. But respect for the dead. I mean, respect for the dead. I mean, some people don't have the same beliefs. Some people believe that, the body should die the way it is and should be buried that way. If anything, they're conditioning us through this to just give up our not only give up. I mean, just like you mentioned before, where you were confronted on your paradigm with the person saying, well, your name and your social insurance number, who gave you that? How is that you? Why does that make you? Well, it's like now they're getting to the point where it's like, well, do you really own your organs? I mean, maybe we'll just take them. So I don't think it's going to be long before you're going to start seeing propaganda. I think it's been around for years, by the way. There's propaganda that is pushing euthanasia and pushing older people to depopulate themselves.
Yeah, because there's so many of them, right?
Yes, and there'll be way more now that the baby boomer generation, right, are I don't know what their age is now, but the yuppies, all the different generations that had a lot more babies. So the pyramid chart, is kind of inverted now.
Yeah.
So you're going to have way more old people than you're going to have young people. Except now, this is why the immigration, like this is why Canada, United States, and many other countries, Europe, well, not Japan's not doing it, but most of these countries are employing massive immigration sort of policies, because there's no way the whole economy would collapse within no time, because there's the birth rate in Canada is like it's like less than 1.5 babies per couple. That is
time for a birth strike.
Yeah, exactly. It's catastrophic, Camille. It means that in 1 or 2 generations, the whole pyramid would be inverted, and there was no way that you could support the elderly population. So this is where we're going. So what I believe, think about this, put all these things together, or put a few of them together at least. The transhumanism, the robots that they're normalizing, that they're giving citizen status to, that are giving speeches at the United Nations, like Sophie and stuff like that, that very soon robots are going to be very common amongst us. It's already, Japan is the big testing ground for this. So Japan, is very common to walk in a shopping mall and, there's plenty of robots going around, sort of thing, with usually with elderly people and stuff like that. That they're going to push in robots and give them human status, which is they've already shown that. United Nations, Saudi Arabia was the first to give human status to a robot.
Yeah.
So the transhumanists, the clones, all these things will be given special status within society, and the old type human beings will be expendable, basically, as they move forward. The CRISPR babies, the elites, special sort of, and the transhumanist is going to mix with the CRISPR. So the CRISPR is going to implement, the choosing whatever genes you want your baby to have, right? So the more money you have, the better chances your offspring is going to live, and people will live forever, and people will make multiple clones of themselves. So it's already probably a fait accompli that many very powerful people in the world have multiple clones of themselves. James Bond was showing this back in the 1960s. I think 1971 was Diamonds Are Forever, where Ernst Avro Blofeld had multiple clones of himself. Well, it wasn't technically clones; it was like humans that they made to look like him, but it was an idea that they first germinated in those films. And those films are always showing depopulation, basically, and the mad, the sort of mad tyrants that would go through any extreme to depopulate the planet. But just envision a future where maybe there's several dozen Al Gores, or
No.
Bill Gates, maybe a few thousand Bill Gates clones. What are you going to do to stop them? They're going to have more rights than you.
Yeah.
It's going to happen because it's there. The technology's there. Look, do you know this? You can clone your dog right now if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Barbara Streisand or somebody do that.
I'll just show you here. So folks here, because this is really disturbing. Just think about this. Clone your dog.
And
There's
people
several.
might think you're going to get your dog, but it's the life experiences that make them into your dog.
Yeah, via Gen. Here you go. Dog cloning in the US. So they're already been doing this for about, I don't know, 5-10 years now, without a doubt. It costs a lot of money, but they do it. You get the exact clone, and many people have done this. Well, what's the difference between cloning a dog and a human?
Yeah.
None. There's no difference. It means it's already happening.
Replacement parts.
Exactly. And then that's another thing too, right? Cloning people to, like, say if you've got a sickness, a terminal illness, and then of course downloading your consciousness to another clone, which they've coded in many of their films and stuff. So all the stuff is already here. We are on the precipice. It's already here. We don't know how far it's gone. It would probably shock us if we actually knew. We'd probably be like, oh my God. The celebrities might have several clones of themselves. It might be easy. Like celebrities could be like this, where they're making clones and they're just killing the clones. And then they're saying, well, Chris Cornell died or something like that. It's like, well, he's really on a beach in Tel Aviv, whatever, got a nice haircut and a shave. Nobody knows him from Moses, sort of thing. It's perfectly doable, and they can do these things. So we're already in this era of WTF is going to happen.
Well, and how easy would it be to, like, they're conditioning us all for this sort of future, and then once they just get us to tap in and put on our little goggles or start with the augmented reality, and blend the worlds together, and then if you do like your job, there's no local jobs. You could go work in a factory in India through the virtual reality world. I mean, once they get people to fully go into that, I imagine they'll lose touch with reality. And then, well, you could be a cat if you wanted to be here. You could just, what kind of ears do you want? Just alter yourself to be whatever you want. Like Ray Kurzweil and Rainbow.
Well, that Google and Microsoft are both spending billions. Like, what is their biggest endeavors that they're putting most of their money into?
Oh, yeah.
It's virtual reality.
Yeah, and I know that on This Week in Google, they're always like, "Oh, it's not going to happen. It's been a flop." No, industry, man.
Sorry.
The industry is they're huge.
Sorry, let me correct myself. Not virtual. That they are putting lots of money into virtual reality. It's augmented reality. Yeah. So augmented reality, for folks that may not know, is like Pokemon Go, where you go around, but picture it like putting on sunglasses or something, where you can go around and see whatever you want.
And I think Amazon they just did a whole bunch of new products coming out, but I think a crazy cheap pair of AR glasses.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So and they often sell them like cardboard, because if you want them really cheap, you just can't afford it. Here, we'll get them for you. You're gonna have the cardboard ones, sort of thing. But yeah, they are, the augmented reality is, and this is all like the brain chips are here. So the brain chips are already being implemented in the elderly for degenerative brain diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff like that. They're already using them.
Yeah.
I believe, when I see Elon Musk, I believe he's already got one. Like, because he's so bizarre. He's like a robot,
Yeah.
right? Um,
People have
and
to watch putting stuff on their eyes because optogenetics is a thing. They can control life with flashing lights, and then
mm,
you put that on there. Like, that's why the the FirstNet stuff, these are eventual videos I'll get to, the first responders network that they're building, and it's not just in the United States, that they're going to have this tech on the cops' eyes, and the firefighters will have these augmented reality helmets and everything. And it's like they're going to have such ability to control that way too. And maybe, I don't know if the chips don't already.
well,
Yeah.
the
And the
brain chips,
the neural dust.
the brain chips are one of the major game changers. I believe that the augmented reality is a step in between.
Yeah.
So the reality where your reality becomes what you want it to be.
Hmm.
Now, the Black Mirror also showed, and I haven't had a chance to cover this yet, but it's guys playing video games, and it is two black friends that are in their 30s and they're playing video games. One has a family and one is a swinger, and they start playing. Like, they use the brain chip. So it's a chip that you put on the temple that immediately puts you in a virtual world, and it's indistinguishable from the real world. So you're living in a video game, and they use this one over and over again in many examples of the show. But they have these two guys playing fighting games, and one of them's playing like they're playing like Japanese fighting characters, and one of them's playing a girl, and the other guy's playing a guy, a samurai sort of thing, and they start effing each other basically.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's so disturbing, but it's like this is exactly where it's going. Like, this is exactly where they're taking it. Look at this brain chip interface will make people telepathic. Self-driving bike uses technology that mimics the brain. All these things are already here.
And they'll be able
Already,
to give you experiences, so
yeah.
you can feel what it feels like to be that cow at the industrial food lot things.
The new world order of augmented reality museums. Check this out. They're just laughing at us right now. Look at this. The new world order of augmented reality museums.
Oh my.
Right? Here's the John F. Kennedy Center. So, how long before people have no concept of reality? It's already here in many ways. Like, already many people have no concept of reality. Already many people are just walking, like, you could say people that are furries and cosplay and stuff like that. You're already stepping out of reality. It's like you think that whatever you're doing is somehow real or beneficial when it's really you're just under complete mind control. You have been so mind controlled
You don't
that
even know
you're
why you're thinking these
yeah,
things. Yeah.
you find happiness in your programming and emulating your programming. So your video games and your movies and your comic books and your stuffed animals. And it's like it's already here where people don't know what reality is. How long before? And in many ways, the truth movement is like that too. Like the truth movement, they have psyop to hell and back. People have no idea. Like people have no idea. They think, like for instance, the Mandela effect. It's like everything is fake, nothing is real. Everything's been changed, and it's like whoa, like. And many people fall into this because it's easy to be manipulated, right? And it's like this is an experiment that these are actually intelligence operations and academic institutions that are employing these people to carry out these psyops, without a doubt, just like flat Earth. And flat Earth is an excellent example of how they're manipulating reality. People have no concept of reality. They can't believe anything because they think everything's fake, and then they're like, well, I can't trust anything. So they only trust their eyes, but their eyes are being deceived and they're being programmed into psyops, basically. So it's already happening in many ways that we are already in that realm where people do not know what reality is. And then you think, well, the average person has no, they don't understand what a false flag is. They don't understand that the media can actually lie to them, that technically, legally, the media can lie all they want to them.
Yeah.
So they can't understand that would happen, and then they would never be able to comprehend why they would do that.
And they're so confused. There's so
It's
much information and so
it's
many.
scary.
Oh, yeah.
I am, I don't want to be pessimistic because I think there's always a silver lining. Like the tech can always, there'll be some bad things for sure, but there'll be some good things. And sometimes the bad things that they're trying to do will backfire and then good things will come out of it. But then we think about like facial recognition, for instance. This is just terrible. I mean, there's this destruction of privacy. You will never be able to go anywhere ever again. You might not already. You may already be at the point, if you are somebody, like we could say the nanotech that might already be in our systems, but we can just say by the smartphones, that you're walking around with your smartphone, you are instantly identifiable, instantly traceable. Every step that you make is being collected without a doubt.
Oh, sure. And they know when it's you that's carrying your phone by the way
Oh,
you
yeah.
walk and the way,
Mhm.
yeah, all your things. I know when
So,
my town rolled out the facial recognition, they even put in the newspaper like, "Oh, good news. It's
exactly.
everywhere now." And
Good
don't you feel
news. Well,
safe?
it's like the Amber, and I went into the Amber Alert, right? And it's like, oh, it seems like it's a good thing. No, it doesn't actually. Find out who was behind it. Find out how they brought it in. Well, I showed everybody how they brought it in. And I found out. Well, of course, it's the small hats again, and it's like, well, wait a second, because the story happened here in Canada, where a girl was reported missing, and it was just her father that took her. Broken families, right? Have an argument, right? Whatever. And so what happened was everybody within a huge radius of Ontario, millions of people got the Amber Alert at 3 in the morning. They didn't get one. Some of them got a dozen, right? So like all night long, their phone was ringing and they couldn't sleep. Now, a smart person would never sign on to that, or a smart, well, I mean, maybe they learned at this point, would turn off notifications and disable that on their device, but they don't really tell you that, right? It's just automatic. So what happened was, yeah, like millions of people were getting this Amber Alert thing, like in this huge area, and it was just a bullshit thing. Anyways, it's just a father and a family having a fight, and the father taking off with the daughter or whatever. Like these things in the old days, oh, a weekend or whatever, and then they come back home or whatever. Maybe a phone call, but then no, oh, we've got to catch this person and we got to send out the alert, and everybody, and then the face of the person is put out there before there's even a trial or anything, of course, before the person's even arrested or there's any investigation. It's guilty immediately, right? And there's a huge thing and it's posted everywhere. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing. It's crazy. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. You will not be able to go anywhere in the future without being every move, every step you take. The police sung about that. Isn't that interesting? The name of the band was The Police.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
That's not ironic, folks.
No.
You don't understand. You look up Regatta Blanc or whatever the name of the album there. See the Illuminati symbolism. The police, every breath you take, every step you make, I'll be watching you. And it's like, even from a lover point of view, that is creepy beyond belief. But that was the biggest song of the decade or whatever. It was a huge song because that's your mind control. Your mind control is telling you to accept your surveillance state, which is all around you, and it's getting worse every day. And this is, people should never allow this to happen. It should never have happened. None of this should have happened. We should have stopped. Google itself, the Google cars, how do they have the right to go around filming everybody's home?
Yeah.
I mean, you know how dangerous that is? Now anybody can find out where you live, and they can see exactly what your home is like and what your backyard's like or whatever, right? It's like, that is unbelievable. And how did a corporation get that power? How did that happen? Who gave the right for that corporation to do that? And that corporation, oh my God, the three Wojcicki sisters and what they're up to, unbelievable. Collecting everyone's DNA, what they're involved in. The rabbit hole with this is so huge. Grace has done some amazing work on that.
Yeah.
It's scary what's going on. I mean, people should be very, very concerned about their privacy, which is, I think it's dead now. I put out a video, 6-7 months ago saying 2019, the end of privacy. It's done. It's over. It's like you can't go anywhere. All your facial recognition is already everywhere. It's already in all your airports. That's the first place they put it. It's in all your stadiums, all your arenas. Well, all the major ones, the NHL, MLB. Who owns the leagues, who runs them, who, right? it's all for your safety. Well, you didn't need it up until now. How comes everybody got along perfectly well before that? Oh, well, right? I mean, it's like, how do you sell it? Well, people are dumb, right? There's no way that you could possibly sell it. You can't say that, oh, we need facial recognition everywhere because it makes us safer. Well, what did we do before? Why are we less safe than we were before?
Yeah, they tried the safety thing in my town, for putting it out there. And it's funny. It's like, you guys are probably just bringing in revenue by selling where we go, what we do, who we are, selling our data, just like all the other companies.
That's just the tip of the iceberg, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because, okay, that's fine. The corporations get it. They use it. They make money off it. But who else is getting it? Well, the CIA, 8200, GCHQ, right? NSA, CSEC, all the different surveillance agencies are getting this. The 6 eyes, which may be like 20 eyes or 50 eyes by now. We have no idea. They sell us 5 eyes. It's the biggest pile of bullcrap ever. And they're all spying on us. It's out of this world. Why are you spying on your own citizens? What's going on? Like, how is this legal? Why are we doing? Oh, no, we don't spy on our own citizens. We get New Zealand or we get Australia to spy on our citizens, and we spy on Great Britain, and United States spies on Canada or whatever. I mean, it's unbelievable, and that's just Edward Snow job, right? And it's like. That was like 2012. Where are we now? It's out of this world. I mean, there's so many things. That's the thing, though. It still comes down to it, though, Kamel, that really at the end of the day, you are what you eat. I mean, like, yeah, maybe we could live with having no privacy. Maybe we can live with the surveillance state and everything else. But when the foods are...
Oh yeah, when it comes to the point where we're eating the little biobot reporters, even your insides will be tracked and watched, and they'll know. You just go to the bathroom. People will be trying to like dig a hole, like squat behind trees and everything to avoid it. Yeah. How will you hide?
How will you hide?
You ingest? Like, do you?
And then when you have no privacy, you have no voice. Like anonymity, like for me, even for you to a certain extent. We're faceless here. We're just our voice. But this gives us freedom. It gives us power because we can say more. Like I used to. Good Lord. The way I used to be. And maybe it's for better in some ways. I used to swear like a drunken sailor and really passionate. And I would call things out, slam the table and stuff like that. I have had to change massively, but still to a certain extent, there's that freedom that you have because you're not immediately identifiable. Your employer's not going to know that you were on a podcast last night talking about the New World Order sort of thing.
Yeah.
That'll all be wiped out. And people will self-censor to the nth degree because they'll be so afraid.
So afraid to stand. When I go out to talk to people in the real world, I get followed around my co-op. Like they have people that'll, not all the time, but they'll just hang out, see what I'm saying to people.
That's creepy.
Yeah, I've asked them about it. I asked if they're the bouncers. That was a good day. That was
fun. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but there was a big story that broke in the UK years back. We're talking about like 5-6 years ago. But I'll definitely find it and maybe I'll make a video about it because it's definitely worth people's attention to understand how far governments will go to spy on their own civilians. This will blow your socks off, though, if you haven't heard this before. The British government, the Scotland Yard, was involved so much on spying on their own citizens that they implanted a bunch of agents in environmental groups, ironically, to the point that several of these agents actually married people that they were spying on and had 10-year-long relationships before it was all revealed that they were, in fact, intelligence operations.
That's crazy.
And had children. Can you imagine? This is true. This actually happened. There's actually people that married, had families, and you think about True Lies, the movie, I don't know if you know that one from the
Is
90s,
that
which is
Arnold?
yes, Arnold
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger, where
yeah.
he was a adult, he was an agent, but his wife didn't know, and she was an agent, but he didn't know, kind of thing.
Ooh, what if it's all a scam, so people are like, "Can you ever trust your spouse?"
Yeah, that's true too, but no, I mean, I think it just goes to show you the extent that
The lengths.
governments will
Yeah,
go to spy on their own civilians, and that they will actually stoop to the lowest levels imaginable
yeah.
to ensure that they are being. I mean, it's just out of this world. It's 1984 is a beautiful fantasy.
Oh,
It's like I wish
seriously.
I could live in that world. At least I could hide in the corner. The screen couldn't see you there. You
Uh-huh.
know,
Yeah,
but
the new 1984 is that book, The Circle,
the
where
circle.
there's cameras everywhere. Like they're like, let's find this person, and all the people participate. Like people are Pokemon going looking for people.
Which
Oh,
who wrote that?
I have it in my hand. Dave Eggers. They made it into a very crappy movie. I did watch that movie. It's not even the same as the book, but it's
Hmm.
it's it is even in the beginning. One of the people reviewing it's like it's Brave New World in 1984, all new.
Yeah,
But
and Brave New World and 1984 are reality. You got the CRISPR babies. They're
yeah.
calling the new generation Generation Alpha.
Uh,
It's out of this world. What's going on? And
I'm
it's like,
rereading Fahrenheit 451 again. It's a
yeah,
good book,
Ray
but
Bradbury.
yeah,
We talked. KJ and I talked about that.
it is so maybe that's why I started reading it again. But it is so similar.
Well, the
Really?
Kindle and Amazon Fire. I mean,
Yeah.
like, come on, your biggest book provider. Their two main devices, which are anti-books, are called Kindle and Fire.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear what they're doing. And then you got Melinda Gates and many other NWO people that are saying they're going to rewrite all the books. Melinda Gates said all books have to be rewritten to eliminate gender bias.
Yeah, to fix her story or her
Yeah,
stories.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You can't
Yeah.
have gender bias. So, well, then they can make the books whatever they want.
Yep.
And that's why I'm saying to folks, collect books, keep them, and get the earliest editions, if not the first editions that you can get. First
Yeah.
editions of any book will be worth their weight in gold in the future, at least maybe not monetarily, but to for the knowledge of humanity, they'll be worth so much. But yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's it's in some ways people don't understand why I do this work, and then I can't understand why people don't. It's like, how could you not be
Yep.
freaking out about what's going on? Like, how could you not? How can you just sit there and watch telly and
Yeah.
not think? Right? Like, I mean, it's everything that's going on. But I think it's time to close it up, though.
Yeah, I am tired now.
It was a great show, though.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Please tell the audience where they can find you. I put your link for your YouTube in the description there. So anybody, please go and sub Camille for sure. But if there's anywhere else they can follow you, please let the audience know, and maybe leave a comment there right now in the chat, because there's 70 people watching, so a bunch of people can click on your icon and sub you right away, sort of thing.
All right, I left a comment. Yeah, so that's me. Please stop the ride. And I am on Steam it too, but you can get there through all my videos, because I link to all the sources, so you can go and look. And it's not just me saying these things. And I promise, as soon as I get a chance, there's an insane amount of stuff I want to talk to you guys about. So I just need to get a
Yeah,
chance to do
awesome.
it.
Well, we're doing a lot more podcasts now for me, so we'll definitely be, we'll fire up Jeff C and Friends.
Yeah, I want
Probably,
to come on Jeff C and Friends.
yeah, maybe next
Talk about
Friday.
that.
But I don't know if you'd be available, but I think maybe next Friday. So Van and everybody else that's listening, we'll get the show going. I'm gonna try to do it bi-weekly. So actually I got to do KJ's show. I'm not sure, so I don't want to do two shows in one day. Although I did that last week or 2 weeks ago, I had to do KJ's show, so I gotta get the confirmation on when KJ is going to have me on, and then I'll be able to tell you. But hopefully, it won't be on the same day. So if it's not Friday, maybe Saturday or something, maybe on the weekend. Are you ever available on the weekends, or is that impossible for you?
Sometimes I'm on like a 1 day available, next day not, like a on and off sort of thing. Mostly coming back into town for the cat. I've been away a lot.
No, the cat. I love
The
it. I
cat,
love it.
yeah.
How's your cat, by the way?
Oh, she's wonderful.
She's awesome, eh?
She's just the greatest.
I love cats.
Yeah. She
Awesome.
wants some beef, or she wants me to go get her some meat. So
awesome. Okay, so thanks everyone for taking part in the show tonight. Thanks to the chat. Everyone's great, and hey, we'll see you guys all on the next one. So have a good night. Take care of each other. Share this information. Maybe share this video. Definitely go and sub Camille's channel, and stay tuned for the next one. Night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Night. End the broadcast. Awesome.